Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is going on?
All of the goods. Hopefully
Welcome to
good.
Face Mask Fantasy. I forgot our name for a second there. What's happening,
That's
man?
okay. We've only been doing this for a year or so.
Hey.
Takes a little bit of time. Not too bad. It's another week, another day closer to football. We're approaching June when I feel like the itch officially starts to come back for not just the diehards, but
this is when you start seeing this is like mock draft season.
Yep,
right now.
Everybody starts to make that comeback. You get your players who are a little bit more casual with it. They're starting to get that itch. Everybody's excited because we've waited this long. At this point, the draft is over. Free agency, like we're approaching a month since the draft. It's now it's like, okay, Let's get through these mandatory OTAs, the off-season program. Let's just get straight to training camp. We're in that stage. So, just moving right along. We're hopefully here to help speed that process up with y'all.
Absolutely, yeah, man. It feels a little bit like the doldrums right now in terms of fantasy, because I mean the news that's coming out, it's like puff pieces on guys that probably aren't going to be relevant.
It's over analysis season. It's hot take season. It's that time of year where everybody's trying to I see it on Twitter all the time, and it's why I don't dive into too much of this myself, but like everybody's desperate for clicks and attention, and they're doing their engagement farming and all of that, and it's just like you're just throwing shit at a wall and hoping something sticks, and that's just not how I personally like to operate. I'd just much rather have give me a random conversation, a random starting point, and we can just talk about that. There's no need for hot takes. There's none of that. But yeah, everybody's so desperate for it to start that they themselves start sounding desperate as far as creating engagement or ways to engage.
Right. You get the one play vines or little clips on Twitter or Instagram of a one pass from Trevor Lawrence to Travis Etienne getting caught against air, no pads. And everybody's like, "Oh, man.
One of the Panthers, one of the Carolina Panthers beat reporters today had a tweet, something along the lines of like, Sam Darnold has looked super sharp today throwing the ball in shorts with no pads on. So like it was one of those like build him up and then crap all over him all in the same tweet. I appreciated that. I was like, nobody's getting super excited about Sam Darnold in his fifth or sixth season at this point.
No, I'm here for the sarcastic tweets with respect to all that.
Looking sharp against air. But it's that time of year. What's going on, Slim? Appreciate the kind
man.
words. I did let the Discord know. It might have been obvious last week. I was coughing a good bit throughout the streams, but we both did contract COVID at a wedding. On the mend, we're doing better. Hopefully to have a little bit more of that content that we were just making fun of other content creators for. Ours is quality, though. Maybe early next week once we're officially on the mend and we get past this a little bit. But we're still here doing the streams. Still here, want to talk with you guys.
We'll have the 3 streams this week, the 2 public streams and the 1 members only stream as usual. So
I mean, it's still a distraction for me, even it's like when your head is a little cloudy and it's like, well, what am I going to do? Sit in my bed and like think about the fact that I'm sick, or hop on here and talk shop?
Right.
One thing feels a little bit more productive than the other, So with that, John, you had an idea for today, and of course we can work this around any other questions or talking points that do pop up in the chat as this stream goes on. But you wanted to throw out some potential, and we can use this as talking points. Maybe less so the idea of predictions, but like, who do we think is in a good situation or a good spot this year to do incredibly well from a fantasy perspective? Not even just
a good situation to do like very well in fantasy, but what I wanted to talk about was the best player at each position.
Yeah.
The number one play. Who do you think is going to finish as the QB1 or the offensive player of the year? Even we can make it even more broad. Offensive player of the year and then rookie player of the year, because I think that's an interesting conversation with respect to this rookie draft specifically, or this rookie class. And then, yes, the TE ones and the RB ones and the wide receiver ones too.
We can do that.
Where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, from the top, I guess the linear thought process that people usually go, I would think, is quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. I mean, but I would say quarterback's the toughest conversation to have here, because we live in an age where we're kind of spoiled by the fact that there are so many good quarterbacks in the NFL. Maybe not all of them are, when you talk about, there's so many good quarterbacks. Maybe not all of them are from a fantasy perspective guys that you look at as guys who could finish number 1 overall. but they're all talented. And though, and from that perspective, there's at least 12 guys. From that perspective, it's like you could make an argument for a bunch of these dudes. So
I don't think there's 12 guys that have a legitimate shot at QB1.
I would say there's 7 or 8.
Yeah, sure. I agree with that.
But there are like 12, I would say at least, where it's like you would feel good if that was your NFL team's quarterback.
Oh,
You would feel fine about that guy. And so from that perspective, we live in an age where, you know, there's lots of good quarterbacks, and that elevates the play of the NFL in general. It makes it much more exciting. But it's also the most difficult conversation to have as far as who do you think is going to finish number 1? There are obvious answers to that question in May.
I mean, yeah, for me, it's not even close. For me, it's got to be Josh Allen at QB.
He's the top of the obvious answers. Yeah.
If you're going for a dark horse, it's Kyler Murray for me. But I don't know if I expect that.
Why do you not?
One overall, just because, man, we got to see him healthy, and his coaching staff holds him back, and they didn't have the best free agency when you're looking at the moves they've made. Now today they did shore up their running back room with the signing of Darrell Williams.
They did,
but Darrell Williams is like, what is Darrell Williams?
He's a good backup.
He's a solid backup, but
he's a good backup.
Yeah. But all that does is solidify the running back room. It doesn't really make your team all that better.
No, it gives you good depth.
You don't have to rely on a rookie and a third-year player who's never done it.
Right.
And Benjamin, but
6th round players were James Conner's backups were 6th and 7th round former 6th and 7th round picks.
But going from Chase Edmonds to Darrell Williams is a drop off, no matter how you put it. And then losing DeAndre Hopkins, even though you're swapping Christian Kirk for Marquise Brown, that's a downgrade.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I can say that Kyler Murray's going to be QB1, which is why I don't put him there. But he
maybe not this year.
But Lamar Jackson lost most of his weapons. I like him as maybe a top 3 QB based on rushing upside. If he can get back to that MVP form in terms of what he does on the ground. But losing all his pass catchers is gonna hurt. So I don't know if I can put him in QB1 overall consideration.
The other name
for me, it's go on. Sorry.
The other name is Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Who actually he came damn close.
Yo, Alex, yeah, that purple badge looks nice, man.
That's crispy. I always like the color purple. It's the color of royalty, you know? We should make that the long-term one. But anyway.
No, we can't. We gotta have.
We don't have that power.
But,
YouTube, we demand the right to change the colors of the badges.
But yeah, man, we appreciate you being a member for as long as you have. What is it?
That's pretty
2
cool.
months? Is this your third month now?
Is it 2 months?
Because you had the green ones and then the yellow ones and now the purple ones. So it's the third one. It's the third month. Thank you, Alex. We appreciate it.
That's pretty cool. We appreciate that. And once we're done being sick, we plan to have something out eventually.
Yeah. And for you members specifically. Yep.
Yeah. But with Herbert, I mean, in his second full season as a starter, actually, I guess was it technically his first full season as a starter because he didn't. He started for the most part as a rookie, but
he was by the second or third game he was in. Second game
he was.
Third game he was starting. Second game he was playing significant snaps.
Yeah. So first true full season going in as the starter.
Finished QB3, right? Or QB2?
I think he was 2. He had 5,000 passing yards. Like, the guy's unbelievable. One of the best young quarterbacks in the game, like top 3.
And you could argue his the talent that is around him right now is better this year than it was last year in terms of just offensively, not even looking up what they did on defense.
Yeah, they added pieces on defense, that's for sure. But the offensive line they addressed in the draft. They sorely needed help on the left side of the offensive line. They addressed that. Keenan Allen is back. Mike Williams is back. Josh Palmer,
Hey,
Jalen
CXK,
Guyton.
thank you. We appreciate you.
What's up, CXK? Appreciate it. Yeah, we're doing all right. We're doing okay. But appreciate the kind words. We're on the mend. Nothing to be concerned about long term. But yeah, with Herbert, Allen back, Mike Williams re-signed, Guyton and Josh Palmer get a year older, therefore maybe a year better.
I'm just looking at O-line. You get a better running back too.
Austin
O-line
Eckler
is better.
Eckler remains the best pass catching back or one of them in the NFL.
And you improve at tight end, in my opinion. Going from Jared Cook to Gerald Everett is a win for me.
He's younger, maybe a little bit more athletic at this point. I've always been a fan of Everett, not as like a tight end one world beating talent, but as a solid NFL player who can give you good production. I think his numbers would have been much better last year, but Russell Wilson missed a good stretch of the season. When Russ came back, Gerald Everett started catching touchdowns. I think a healthy Justin Herbert. I think Everett. I was saying this last year. I thought Everett was in for a career season last year, and then Russ got hurt. So I'll double down. I think Gerald Everett's in for a career season this year because at this point in their careers, Herbert, it's fair to say, is better than Russell Wilson. At this point, Russ is the Hall of Fame talent. Herbert's not there yet. But this year, right now, if I had to have one of them, I want Herbert.
Yep.
Like, point blank. I think this Chargers offense is going to be fantastic, and I think it's going to be because of Herbert. If Allen's not you're my not so obvious pick to finish as the QB1, Herbert's right there. And as it's rare to be able to say that about a guy where you're not really expecting a whole lot from him running the ball.
But on the flip side, then you do have to turn that over and say, all right, if you expect Justin Herbert to be in the QB1 overall conversation, which we do have to put him there based off of what he did in his second full season.
Yeah.
Full season. First full season, second season. Then you got to, on the flip side, look at Mike Williams again, like a top 12 wide receiver. And Keenan Allen like a borderline top 16 wide receiver.
I think they're both around that top 12 conversation.
But people aren't drafting Mike Williams like he's a top 12 wide receiver right now.
Allen, they are. Mike Williams is down a bit. I mean, he exploded to start the season and then he kind of petered off. But I mean, they committed to him with that contract. He remains an every down starter for them, an every down player for them. Yes, that he's gonna have his peaks and valleys, but the peaks could catapult him into an overall wide receiver one season or damn close.
And being in the division that he's in, there's going to be a lot of shootouts.
Plenty of scoring.
So, yeah, that's something that I am looking out for this year. Who are the teams that have harder schedules where they're going to have to be pedal to the metal the entire game?
Chargers
because
are one of them.
We talked about it. There are certain teams in the league that don't stop scoring points, even in the fourth quarter if they're all the way up. Conventional wisdom would have them run out the clock and be boring. Some teams still operate that way. The Patriots still operate that way.
Yeah, you have to these days. There's too much good talent in the end. You know what?
You got to keep pedal to the metal. You mean
you have to?
Exactly.
This is kind of the correlation that I make, and then we'll get to. There's a couple questions in the chat. We'll get to them. It's kind of like the NBA. People like to hate on the NBA because they feel like there's no defense in the NBA. No, that's not true. It's just that the amount of offensive talent in the NBA is so good is that it makes the defense almost not matter. That's kind of where we're at in the NFL. There's so much good offensive talent in the NFL. And I just said it a little while ago. There are so many good quarterbacks. You can't score 30 points by the third quarter and say, we're good, we're just going to run the ball. You can't do that anymore. There's too many good offenses. There's too much talent. You have to keep your foot on the gas. And as fantasy players, we love that.
Yeah, exactly. That's garbage time. But
garbage time
used to only apply to garbage time used to apply to only the losing teams. But now it applies to half of it. I would put it around half of the winning teams, and that's great. It's great for fantasy.
Yep. Makes it a little bit more fun. So Allen, I think it's more than fair to just say it's hard to make an argument against him. I think
he's going to be on he's going to be on a revenge tour. He's going to,
until the Bills climb the summit. Yeah, you can confidently feel good about. Don't worry. It's like you don't have to worry about the intangibles of the Bills season. Like, they're not Super Bowl losers. Like, I'm a little worried about the Bengals this year having maybe like a mid-season swoon, because that we see that happen a lot with Super Bowl losers. The Bills don't qualify for that conversation. So yes, I agree from that perspective.
I think that the Bengals and their position to be able to get into the Super Bowl again really hinges on their O-line and what their O-line, how their O-line improves, their additions through free agency and through the draft. We already saw that Alex Kappa is out for a little while. We'll see how injuries affect their O-line moving forward. But I really think the Bengals' ability to be able to maybe not reach the Super Bowl again, because only 2 teams in the NFL ever do every season. It's very hard.
Difficult.
Really good teams sometimes don't get there. It just happens.
Lots of good teams never make it.
Yep. So I'm not judging him based on that, or the Bengals based on that early in their career, but I do expect them to go far if their O-line is good. But yeah, I would say Josh Allen for me, QB1, and it's almost not even close for me. It's almost not even close because of the rushing upside that he brings.
The rushing, yeah, that's and what the catalyst is. Yes, that's the X factor.
They did draft a running back in the second round, but he's not a guy that's going to be affecting Josh Allen's ability to score touches on the goal line.
He might help Allen's fantasy output by he's going to be catching the ball. He's going to be catching the ball. Yeah, I would put Herbert as the not so dark horse.
Hey, Bobby, appreciate you. That's nice.
But those are the guys. What does that mean?
I don't know.
I don't know what that means.
Is that like because we haven't put anything out in the past few weeks because we've been dealing with some things? Is that it? We've still been live streaming 3 times a week, bro.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate that.
Hated by the rest. All right, this guy. All right.
This guy's got
appreciate
nothing
you.
Else.
Did you want to go through the rest of the chat and ignore?
Well, yeah. Let's get to Alex's comment about how he sold Connor a couple weeks ago for the 201 and
no, the music is not from a Hitchcock movie. It's from a. It's from a royalty-free sample.
I don't know what that means either, but you do. You're the musician.
I can confidently say it's not from a Hitchcock movie.
There you go.
At least I did not get it from a Hitchcock movie when I put.
Would that be a
together.
copyright issue? I don't even know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would think so. Like we can't just take that. We would get flagged for that, but that's okay. Because it's not. But anyway, sold Connor a couple weeks ago for the 201 and the 210. You have Darrell Williams, so okay, there you go. And so might go back to that team because it would be the Connor handcuff now. What are you selling Darrell Williams for? I mean, how old is Darrell?
I wouldn't be selling Darrell Williams, first off. James Conner is one of the most injury-prone running backs in the NFL historically. I would wait until James Conner has an injury and Darrell Williams becomes the RB1 for this team, and then you sell him for a second or more. Because I would bet that happens at some point this year, because it has happened every single year of James Conner's career. He gets injured. And yes, you're going to see Keontae Ingram get play. You're going to see maybe even Eno Benjamin get play. But regardless, Darrell Williams is going to get play when James Conner goes down, and James Conner's going to go down. And on the flip side of that, even if James Conner stays healthy, Chase Edmonds was utilized last year in an RB2 role in this offense with James Conner still doing James Conner things. James Conner was doing well early in the season. Chris Edmonds was doing well during the first part of last season as well. So technically, Darrell Williams still has standalone value as a running back. And when James Conner goes down, his value goes way up, and then you can probably sell him for a high second, maybe even more, depending on how desperate the team is.
Yeah. I mean, he's got more value for you now compared to if you're trying to talk to that owner. I mean, it's like, right. Okay, could have interest in handcuffing the situation, but it's like, don't give him away for a third-round pick.
No.
He's got, not to that guy. He's got more value than that to that guy. To another random person in the league, you know, all right, maybe you're probably not going to get anything more than that, but for the Connor owner specifically, he's got more value than that.
I've gone out of my way early in my dynasty career try to acquire handcuffs to my running backs before I realized that was not the greatest way to go about roster structure. But yeah, you can sell handcuffs.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get a first for him, but hey, that's all right. The 201 is close, and the 210 on top of that. What did you who'd you draft with those picks?
Or it looks like you are still making those picks.
Yeah, you haven't drafted yet. Okay, drafted yet.
Yeah, still making, or it's those picks still need to be made. I mean, it's not a bad year to have a lot. It's even in a rebuild of a weaker class, it's never a bad year to have lots of picks. I mean, if you're not loving the situation, I mean, hold the 101 so you can take Breece. But I mean, if you don't love what's there at the 103, flip the 103. Like, flip the 103 and the 110, or maybe the 103 and no, don't do that.
Somebody
flip the 103 and one of those
those
seconds for a 2023 first.
Somebody will be hype on that 103 and will overpay for that 103. Somebody will be hype for somebody who fell to 110, which might be the last pick for an elite-ish player that we expect. You know, that's the fall off to the George Pickens, Jahan Dotson tier.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody that fell there, somebody in your league is going to be hype about one of the players that's there and will overpay at 110. You can even find somebody to overpay at the 201. You can.
You might, depending on who's there.
The 203. You can find somebody to overpay for these. So if you want to just outside of the 101, trade out of the 2022 draft class to just accumulate 2023 and put your rebuild off a year, but really set yourself up to get Bijan Robinson, Zach Evans, maybe even like a CJ Stroud. I mean, if you can turn those into 3 picks, maybe even a Jackson Smith and Jigba all at the same time, and then you're looking good. You're really looking really good for next year. So
and at first I was going to say, like, maybe not the 201, but in a 10-team league, that guy's going to have value like a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Or late first, but you get what I'm saying.
And I really, after Breece Hall, then maybe Kenneth Walker. For this season, everything else is and really for moving, everything else is a question mark. Question marks about Treylon Burks. Question marks about Garrett Wilson and if he's going to be able to supersede Elijah Moore. Questions about Drake London and if he's going to be able to succeed in that offense at all, just because that offense doesn't project to be high scoring. There are a lot of questions about every single player in this draft. Some more than others. JMO's
health, George Pickens' health, Kenneth Walker in general. Like, are we loving Ken? I personally don't think so, but I saw this talking point on Twitter today or yesterday. Do we love Kenneth Walker too much just because of how bad the rest of the running backs are? And when I say bad, I mean relative to expectations. There's no slam dunks in here after the top 2 guys. So, there's lots of question marks. Even Breece, I mean, not that I'm questioning Breece, but I thought that by now his ADP would have skyrocketed to the 3rd round at least.
No, Michael Carter being there and Zach Wilson being not a super highly thought of quarterback has put a huge dent in Breece Hall's overall ADP and value in fantasy right now, outside of Dynasty.
And I think it'll still climb later in the offseason. I do. But I thought it would have happened by now. But to that point, there's questions about pretty much everybody in this class. And don't even get me started on the quarterbacks.
The thing about Breece Hall, which I don't get, is why were and are people so in on J.K. Dobbins despite the presence of 700 yards and 3 touchdowns at least a year in Gus Edwards
from Gus Bus?
I don't understand, but we're all in on J.K. Dobbins.
I've seen more people fading.
I'm just
Dobbins.
thinking. No, I'm not. That is an example of a situation where the incumbent RB2 is getting a ton of work.
Mm-hmm.
Do we expect Michael Carter to get a ton of work? No.
No, I don't expect him to.
He's going to get Naheem Hines work. If that.
I think he might get. They
drafted Breece Hall.
I know. He's going to get more carries than a Naheem Hines, but he'll probably get fewer catches. Anyway, Breece is the closest thing to safe in this draft. And then after that, it's question mark after question mark. So, yeah. But
there was a report over the weekend that Rashad Penny. There was a report over the weekend that Rashad Penny is dealing with an injury already, a hammy injury.
That already starting.
Right.
Already starting.
So Kenneth Walker hype train.
Yep. But people are worried about Walker from an overall talent perspective, from on the basis of he's shooting up rookie drafts because there's nobody else at the running back position.
Right.
I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that, just that is now a talking point. So there's enough questions.
Well, I mean, really, after him, everybody else in the running back
is like a 1 or 2 year guy.
Is not even that. They might get replaced by next season. Look at what just happened to Michael Carter. Michael Carter was drafted where in rookie drafts last year?
Second round.
Okay.
Maybe.
Gone.
Yeah, just like that.
Gone. Chuba Hubbard. Where was he drafted last year?
Not as high.
Not as high, but late second. Gone. Value
Maybe.
Gone.
Yeah.
So you look at these running backs. I know none of them were drafted as high as Kenneth Walker, and that might be the problem. But after Kenneth Walker, I mean, Rachaad White, we like. James Cook, we like to a certain extent. Tyler Algier, Dameon Pierce, all these guys can get Michael Carter next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I expect a lot of them, not
several
just one,
of them will.
A lot of them will get Michael Carter next year.
There's too much talent in next year's draft class from a running back perspective where we can, we're not going to be able to feel as good as we do this. Yeah, about Pierce, Zamir, Algier, maybe even a Rachaad White, because, a lot of these guys are probably going to get replaced. Or if not them, there's an incumbent young guy somewhere right now who's about to tumble down the depth chart this time next year.
Yeah.
So, but when it comes time to make the pick, someone's going to want it, Alex. And
look,
and
even
that's
James,
when you can get your
James
haul.
Conner, man. Not James Conner. James Robinson. James Robinson was a great was before his Achilles, and we'll see what he is moving forward. But was a phenomenal running back. Doesn't matter. Travis Etienne.
No, Etienne.
1 year after finishing RB7 in fantasy, which I know, but still, that means he was a good running back.
He was great. He was great. Undrafted guy to the RB7.
Running backs get replaced. It doesn't even matter if you're a second year running back and you performed as the RB7 last year. We're drafting your replacement.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Now, some of that can be attributed to a bad coaching staff in Urban Meyer, but it still happens.
There are other bad coaching staffs.
There's plenty
in front offices.
There's plenty of stupid coaches.
So it's going to happen. Yeah. It's going to happen. Expect it to with these running backs that are in the second round. So if you can trade out of the second round, even if your target was a running back, and you can trade back into the first next year, even in 2024, something to think about.
Yeah, get the 2024 picks too. That year will be here before you know it.
And you offered D-Will from Michael Carter, Alex, since you're gonna draft Brees. I don't know if you can get that done. Sure, because
do it. If you can get it done, do it.
Yeah.
I think Michael Carter's a decent player, and this year and next might be rough, but if he's able to get out from under the Jets and latch on as like a 1B somewhere as opposed to a clear 2, it feels unlikely now because teams do like to deploy multiple backs, even if they have a clear guy who's very.
Michael Carter in a few years can be Ronald Jones with a little bit higher pedigree. Absolutely,
so.
There's nothing that I think that might happen.
Yeah, he'll get a string of like 1-year contracts, and one of them will be a real favorable situation. Hopefully, he parlays it into some more money.
Look at what James Conner, a guy we just talked about, is doing. Went elsewhere and succeeded beyond anybody's imagination.
Yeah.
So, and nobody said Michael Carter is bad. So, yeah.
No.
And the objective, hey, thanks for coming in and chilling with us.
Yeah.
And respect to Nick
man.
for helping you out with that trade. I did not see that on Discord, but I've been.
Yeah.
I got to get back on Discord. I've been a little absent lately.
I mean, we've gotten we fell a little under the weather and all that crap. Yeah. What was I remember it was that's what it was.
That's a great deal.
Up
great
Shark.
Deal.
24-second and a fourth this year for the 112, and I was like, yeah, let's do that deal. Yeah, and I said, it's a fourth this year, a second that's 2 years out, easily can be reacquired if you really want it. And at this point, Chark's a wide receiver 3 who might get lost in the shuffle in Detroit really fast. I mean, between Swift, between Hawk, between JMO, he might contribute, but for the 112 that turned into the 16th pick in the NFL draft in Dotson, it's an easy, like for me, it's like, come on.
There were more rumblings over the weekend that Washington was didn't do much in free agency to leave space on their cap to be able to re-sign Terry McLaurin to a long deal, to an extension. But Terry McLaurin is also now firmly staying. What do you call it? Staying put. No, like when you avoid OTAs. What is it?
Oh, he's
holding out. Holding out. He's firmly holding out at this point. He's not attending OTAs. He's not attending veteran,
which they are voluntary.
Veteran
right
minicamp,
now.
all that.
They're voluntary now, but in a few weeks they will be mandatory.
Yes.
Like right now, it's voluntary OTAs, and then sometime in June or when the mandatory mini camps happen.
But he is holding out, and he has said that he plans to until they get it.
Until he gets a new contract, which makes sense for his perspective, and then it creates a distraction off the field for Washington. They are familiar with that. They almost excel in that situation.
Yo, did you hear that news about Dan Snyder might be getting voted out by other owners at this point?
Yeah,
they're taking votes. They're
Rappaport,
taking votes.
Yeah, Ian Rappaport went on the Pat McAfee show today and said that now it sounds like he's going to still end up being the owner. Which, if you're a fan of any other team other than Washington, it's like especially NFC East fans.
And the Commanders, the Commanders have $5 million in cap space this year and $9 million in cap space projected next year on their 53. Now, usually after a year, it eases up a lot more than giving you an extra $4 million in cap space. I'm sure a lot of that has to deal with how they've handled quarterbacks over the past few seasons. And a lot of that depends on Carson Wentz. I'm sure they can cut Carson Wentz and save a good chunk of cap space. But still. Which they should. And they probably will. So they could open up the contract for a larger annual value after this year, where they have $5 million on the cap to sign Terry McLaurin. And obviously they don't need to. They need that to apply for next season, not this season. He's signed this season, so it doesn't matter for this season. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there is a road to where Jahan Dotson. There is a route to Jahan Dotson getting wide receiver 1 touches in this offense So I like you getting Jahan Dotson at 112. I did the same thing at 201.
Dotson's stock is way up right now. Dotson's stock is up. So
and
to get him for Chark, a 24 second and a 22 fourth.
Yeah.
Feels like robbery right now. But yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. But Alex, I wouldn't be selling Jarvis either. I wouldn't be selling either of those guys right now. I wouldn't be selling Darrell Williams right now. I wouldn't be selling Jarvis Landry right now. Those are guys whose highest values will be once the season starts. Once people are seeing Darrell Williams getting Chase Edmonds touches. Maybe not the same in the pass game, but still that chunk of work in the backfield. Wait until you see James Conner get injured and Darrell Williams step into the de facto running back one role, which will happen again at some point this season because he always gets injured, and then sell him. Don't sell him right now. Same thing with Jarvis Landry. Wait until people actually see how good he can be with a quarterback like Jameis Winston, who I want to dovetail this conversation after going through this chunk of chats here into another conversation regarding Jameis Winston. But wait on Jarvis Landry, wait on Darrell Williams.
Yeah, Jarvis's value is as low as it's, even despite the signing, is as low as it's going to be right now. You're probably not going to get that much for him, and he is a little bit older. Wait for him to play on this offense. Yeah, I agree. I don't want to sell Jarvis Landry. I think he's looking at a potential boost in production. Let's see what happens with Michael Thomas this offseason as far as his health. We haven't seen anything definitive yet. That we were getting positive news shortly around the Super Bowl, but it's been crickets since then. So until we can say definitively Michael Thomas is out here on the field running, doesn't have a limp, doesn't look like he's, walking gingerly or favoring the ankle or anything like that, until we're starting to get those reports, hold Landry.
And you got to be looking at every injury conversation coming into this year. You got to be looking at what you should be expecting from Chris Godwin. You got to be looking at the overall health of Jameson Williams coming in, if you plan on using him at all. You got to look at even the guys coming back from injury like DJ Chark in the same offense. DeAndre Swift in the same offense. Odell coming back where he signs. I expect it might be the Rams, but still.
I think it'll be the Rams, but yeah.
No, there's a lot of injuries, players returning from injury that you do have to look long and hard at.
Yeah. Because
Travis Etienne and both Travis Etienne and J.K. Dobbins have come out and said, I'm not 100% healthy. I'm more at 85% healthy, 90% healthy.
Well, the vibes for Etienne took a positive turn this week.
Yeah, they did. But
they took a positive turn.
They did. But despite that, you got to take those comments seriously. When a player is so and so months removed from an injury and he's still 85% well, when usually players are overly optimistic on where they are, you got to take a look at that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I expect Jarvis Landry to do well. You got to look at those injuries, but then you got to look at the beneficiaries of those injuries, and Jarvis Landry is definitely one. And Trey Lance, yeah, man. Hey, it's kind of put up or shut up season for him. Despite how young into his career he is, it's kind of perform now or people are really going to start to look at you like a lost investment. Yeah.
What you said you wanted to bring it back with Jameis?
Yeah, man, because he is in the conversation for me, and we stopped at QB1. But Jameis Winston is in the conversation for me for comeback player of the year. For me, for comeback player of the year, I have Jameis Winston / Allen Robinson listed here. And Allen Robinson's, it really depends on whether or not Odell Beckham resigns there, and it looks like Odell Beckham's going to resign there. But if he doesn't, Allen Robinson definitely could be comeback player of the year. And Jameis Winston is up there too, because with the weapons that he is going to be playing with this year, if Alvin Kamara can come back without much of a suspension, if Michael Thomas is due to be healthy this season, Jameis Winston is going to be playing with the all-around best talent that he's ever played with. Maybe not top end at the high end, not so top heavy like it was on the Bucs, but all-around talent.
Deepest.
I mean, this year for Jameis Winston's got to be the best.
Deepest. And was already showing extreme improvements in the efficiency department last year with bare bones at wide receiver and tight end. Yep. So just add Chris Olave and Jarvis Landry to that, and it's automatically an upgrade. So I agree. As far as Alex, rebuilding and holding on to old players, give people a reason to want them before selling them, just to get rid of them because they're old. You know what I mean? Wait for Jarvis Landry to have a 7-catch, 80-yard, 1-touchdown game. Get that extra asset out of him.
Yeah, peak value. We say it all the time, and sometimes peak value. I wouldn't even say sometimes. Most of the time, peak value for these aging players and maybe second-tier players is in season.
Mid-season,
once something maybe happens to another player playing opposite them or ahead of them on the depth chart, something like that. So sometimes it pays off to be patient with these aging players.
Yep.
And Michael Thomas, comeback player of the year possibility. I don't love it. It could happen, but the vibes on him,
it's been crickets.
Coming back are it's strange.
It could happen. Like, is he at Saints? I'm at. What's going on, Iron? Thanks for stopping in. I'm just gonna search his name on Twitter. Let's see. He's at Saints OTAs, so that's a good sign. He's at the Saints facility as Saints OTAs open. I'm going to see if I can get something on Michael Thomas as far as any type of update, because at least he is in the building. Mostly absent from the public eye since he last played. And I'm looking at David Chow. He's that Pro Football doc.
Yeah.
He wrote an article about Michael Thomas today. Video posted on Michael Thomas's Instagram story. Doing okay in rehab, but the Dr. Chow is not necessarily reassured that his ankle has recovered enough to get him back to his pre-injury status as an elite NFL receiver and bona fide first-round fantasy pick. Now, obviously, we only have one video. What is this, like 30 seconds in length, if that? And he's just eyeballing the situation. I mean, he's just running straight lines right now. It's literally 7 seconds in length.
Far off from really cutting and doing all that.
Yeah, he's running a straight line.
All that is more crucial for running backs, but still, you need to be able to cut and move and then be able to plant and really
change of direction. Yeah,
and try to break tackles if his foot or whatever is wrong with him crumbles as soon as he tries to break a tackle. That's an issue too. So there's a lot to go in terms of just progress he needs to show just from running in a straight line.
And honestly, I'm not a trained medical eye. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, but I mean, he's running, but I don't know. It feels like it doesn't feel like
it's not full speed. It's not game speed. It's not what you're hoping for.
Sometimes you can eyeball a situation and be like, that dude looks healthy. Like, that dude looks like he's fine, or looks like what he did pre-injury. I can't sit here and definitively say that. I know it's just a 7-second video, but I don't know. It feels like there is a bit of laboring, like a small amount. So, from a Saints offense perspective, you hope Michael Thomas is a comeback player of the year candidate. I wouldn't necessarily throw his name in that ring just yet, though, Alex.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to draft him in best balls because his ADP is like it's still in that like 50-ish range. Let me double check that. I'm not but it gives me a little bit of pause that we have not gotten more definitive. His ADP is 61. So like that's not a bad gamble to take a shot on for a guy who just 2 years ago was the overall wide receiver one.
But you got to remember, man, I know we look at a lot of 29-year-old wide receivers like, hey, you can still do it. You're fine. You're good. I'm not worried about you in fantasy. When coming off of an injury where we haven't seen him play or haven't seen him play effectively in such a long time and is now dealing with, I know we like Jameis Winston, a quarterback switch. So how much of a connection are they going to have? Is he going to have more of a connection with Chris Olave or Jarvis Landry coming in now? It really remains to be seen because of how little Jameis Winston has probably worked with Michael Thomas at this point. He's probably trying to build rapport with him for maybe this first time, because at the time, maybe it was Drew Brees taking most of the first team reps. Maybe it was Taysom Hill taking most of the second team reps. So maybe he doesn't even have any rapport with Michael Thomas from when Michael Thomas was playing. Mm-hmm. And Jameis Winston was on the same team. So, yeah, man. He was the offensive player of the year in 2019, Michael Thomas.
Yep. But
he's 29 years old, going on 30, not quite at the beginning of the season, but soon, and this is the year, this is around the time in the career when Des Bryant fell off, when Alshon Jeffrey fell off, and Michael Thomas is 6'3", 212. He's not a smaller wide receiver, and he's not particularly a fast wide receiver. So if he loses that quick twitch from these injuries, I mean, we could have seen the last of wide receiver one Michael Thomas. So while we have liked him at times throughout the offseason as a comeback player, I don't know if he makes it into my list because there are a few too many question marks with him and reasons to have pause.
It's hard to put a vote of confidence behind him for that conversation.
Now, offensive rookie of the year. Who you got? Velus Jones?
Ha! No.
Tyquan Thornton? Pierre Thomas?
Romeo Doubs. No, I mean, that's a tough conversation. I mean, Brees is probably Brees feels like I don't even know if he's the favorite. It's going to be hard. It's tougher for running backs. You have to put up some pretty strong numbers. And with so many teams deploying committees these days, like was Najee the offensive rookie of the year last year?
No, it was Jamar Chase.
Oh, duh, it was Chase.
And then the year before that, it was Justin Herbert. And then I believe the year before that, it was Kyler Murray. Now, quarterback it's not going to be quarterback this year, most likely, unless something
Pickett
drastic
would have to start day one,
right? And really be Justin Herbert or Kyler Murray the first year, which we're not expecting. So
unless the rest of the rookies are just all
to me,
underperformed.
I think it's going to be another one of these wide receivers. This is a passing league. It's going to be one of these wide receivers if it's not going to be a quarterback. A running back would really have to do something special to be able to achieve offensive rookie of the year, I believe. Last year, Jamar Chase. A few years ago, Justin Jefferson didn't get offensive rookie of the year. I mean,
despite having 1,400 receiving yards.
Right. So
who won it that year? Was it CeeDee? Who
in
won?
2019? Yeah. It was Kyler Murray.
Was Justin Jefferson a rookie the same year as Kyler?
2019, or was it 2020? Justin Herbert.
Oh, Herbert. It was Herbert. That's right. Herbert and Justin Jefferson. Man, okay. Yeah, I mean, so just to I guess I'll keep.
It's not going to be one of the quarterbacks in this draft.
I'll keep the conversation with the Saints. If it hinges, if we have this much question about Michael Thomas, I mean, we feel good about Jameis Winston's prospects to have a strong season. All he's ever done is throw for 5,000 yards Has he done it multiple times? He's done it once. We know that. I mean, it could be Olave.
It could be Olave. He could have a connection like he had with Chris Godwin as the number 2 wide receiver, who he made into
Olave.
the overall wide receiver 2 in 2019, I believe. It could be Chris Olave. It could be
Olave.
Honestly, it could be Drake London. It could be Treylon Burks.
I think London's going to have a tough time just because, his quarterback situation is the worst. Now, that being said, he is unquestionably his team's wide receiver 1, no matter who's out there any given week. Drake London is the Falcons' wide receiver 1. Well, Pitts is their best overall option, but of the wide receivers, Drake London is that bona fide, unquestioned wide receiver 1 for the Falcons. I just question the quarterback play being consistent enough to get him there. Treylon Burks could maybe do it, but you just got done talking a few minutes ago about watching guys, as far as injury comebacks. Robert Woods fits that mold, fits that conversation. So, does Robert Woods come back mid-season, and does Burks get capped a little bit?
And the report came out today. They're looking at not filling out their wide receiver room a little bit more with guys like Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, one of these other wide receivers that are still out there on the free agent wire,
who will get signed at some point.
They will get signed at some point. We see it every year. These bit players are brought in to play.
I mean, depending on what happens with Terry McLaurin, it could be Dotson.
I don't see that. I don't see that. If anything, it is Treylon Burks for me or Chris Olave, just because they both have competent quarterbacks. Drake London does not have a competent passing quarterback. Treylon Burks has a competent passing quarterback. Chris Olave has a competent passing quarterback.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm never afraid of Carson Wentz slander, but we know that Wentz can support a high-end fantasy relevant option at receiver. He has done it. He has done it before, multiple times. So the door is open for Dotson pending what happens with Terry McLaurin. The door is open. I wouldn't call him a favorite, but I wouldn't say I don't see it either. I think Dotson's in for a decent year anyway, and he's in for a really good year if McLaurin, if it comes to a point where he says trade me or I'm not showing up.
Yeah. Which we could see happening. I wouldn't want to play there.
No, but the guys who don't have a choice, like Dotson.
What's going on, P. Diddy?
Strong numbers.
What's going on, Jason?
What's going on, guys? Anyway, that's
Fields,
just like some
Tua, famous Jameis. Pick one. Sorry to cut you off.
No, just saying that was just some just throwing names out for potential rookie of the year arguments. So if you guys have, and we'll get to these comments now, but if you guys have any thoughts about who you guys like as far as the potential favorite or front runner for rookie of the year, shout them out. Give us your thoughts. Would love to hear it. But between those three, cutting one, do I have to? I don't want to cut.
Yeah, I would rather cut a depth wide receiver or running back than cut a quarterback and a 2 QB if that is 2 QB, Slim. If that's 1 QB, I would just wait.
Yeah. Who are you trying to make a roster
spot for? Or I would try to sell one.
Or if this is just an arbitrary keep trade cut conversation.
Right. I mean, none of those guys are slam dunks. That's the problem. They're all in the same tier for me.
I'm keeping Jameis because I know he's easily the oldest, but he's also easily the most proven.
He's had a QB3 season overall.
He's had a 5,000 passing yard season.
And then I'm keeping Tua because for this year, Fields has by far the worst
collection of talent.
Tua might have one of the best supporting casts when you look at everything that they've done all told this season this past offseason. So I would be following that.
Tua might have a top 10 supporting
because
cast.
if you gotta cut one, I mean, I know it's tough to cut Fields. This is only in very specific situations. I wouldn't be doing this in Dynasty. at all. Even in a 1 QB league, I would be cutting a running back that might get picked up by somebody on their team.
My fourth tight end.
Right, my fourth tight end, something like that. I would not be trying to cut any of these quarterbacks, but in a vacuum, if I had to cut one, it would probably be Fields, and I'm crazy. It's crazy that I'm saying that.
And I don't like that I have to say Fields, but that's who my pick would be in a vacuum. If this is just an arbitrary, keep, trade, cut conversation.
1 QB league, okay, I get it, but you still want 3 quarterbacks.
I'd keep off. League. I mean, yeah. How deep does your wide receiver core run, Slim? How deep does your tight end core run? Like, there's got to be somebody where it's like
Ty Conklin on there, bro. Cut Ty Conklin and keep the quarterbacks.
Yeah, who's at the very end of your, like a Diami Brown. I'm just thinking of Washington receivers. Now we're talking Washington.
Dwayne Eskridge,
players.
If you got one of these,
even
if it's a 1 year wide receiver, if you got one of them, I would keep those quarterbacks over one of those guys. So
Cornell Powell. Remember Cornell Powell? No offense, Cornell Powell.
I remember, dude.
No offense, Cornell Powell. But yeah, man, I'm keeping all 3 of those guys if I can. Yeah, he's on the Chiefs. Yep. What's up, Bender?
What's going on, Bender?
Yeah, everybody hit that like button.
Yo, Iron, please. Will Eno Benjamin have fantasy value in the future now with Darrell Williams and the Cardinals? I mean, I feel like Eno Benjamin keeps getting Keyshawn Vaughn. I don't know if we're gonna see it. I think he's gonna. Who is the guy that the dynasty and just the fantasy community always just put on a pedestal? Christine Michael. Remember Christine Michael every year? Christine Michael. There's these running backs that never even seem to get secondary work in their offense that the fantasy community attaches themselves to. Mike Boone was that guy for a little bit.
CJ Procise. Yeah. Sometimes these guys work out like a JD McKissick and stuff like that 5 years down the road. But for the most part, they just kind of stay in this tier where they're overhyped by the fantasy community for being guys that might ascend to the RB2 in their offense somewhere along the line. We're hoping that they become the RB2. We're hoping they become Alexander Madison. And they get overhyped and overranked, and then they always seem to be pushed down depth charts at the end of the day. I was hype on Eno Benjamin. I bought Eno Benjamin this offseason. I bought Keyshawn Vaughn this offseason. And what happened? They picked up other guys. They moved back down to the depth chart, and we're stuck with an RB3, RB4. They drafted a guy Now, all's not lost with a guy like Eno, because we did just get done talking about how James Conner is an injury risk at this point in his career.
Yeah.
So, he moves up a spot, and if that happens, if Conner misses, say, 3 weeks. Now, obviously, the guy that you're going to want to have for that 3-week stretch is Williams, but
even after that, you might want Keontae Ingram, and then Eno Benjamin's the number 3 running back for a team that already has an RB1 injured, even if it is for a few weeks.
Maybe. But he's going to need an injury to gain relevance, and he's going to need a long-term injury to have potential value this season, because at that point, then it becomes a full-blown committee. But then, so to that point, it's going to be difficult to predict any given week. He might give you an RB2 finish, but that might be, after 3 weeks in a row where he's giving you 4 fantasy points or less, and there's no way anybody could advise starting him. You know what I mean? So it's tough to see a situation short of Conner missing the season, or again, a hefty stretch of time where he ends up in a role where he is a flex play every other week, or as if it's a plus matchup, fire him up. It's going to be hard to vouch for him outside of that scenario.
Strange things happen,
which could happen,
like Jordan Howard being signed off the free agent, signed off of his couch, where he'd been for the past 2 seasons, and becoming borderline the RB1 for the Eagles down the stretch, who happened to be the most run first team in the NFL during that span, and then he has fantasy value. Something like that, like a depth running back can catch fire depending on the right circumstance. I'm not saying, so I agree with you. I'm not saying, Benjamin will be nothing. You just have to be prepared for him to be nothing at the end of the day. You have to prepare for him to be a Mike Boone, CJ Prosise, you said earlier. One of these running backs that just everybody loves him, doesn't ever work out to where he even sees playing time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to feel good about a guy like Eno moving forward.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
And Slim, Jameis, Tua, Fields, Gibson, Akers, Jacobs, Madison, Gainwell, Abram, Smith, Hines, Jefferson, Waddle, Hollywood Brown, Waddle,
Waddle
Landry,
was
Gallup,
twice.
Knox,
That's okay.
Irv. So I like Abram Smith, but I would much rather keep Jameis, keep Tua, keep Fields, and cut Abram Smith than
trade
keep Abram Smith on the chance that he fills in and becomes your Tony Jones Jr. this season. If Tony Jones Jr. doesn't, I don't know.
Or trade him for a third-round pick in 2023.
Yeah, I don't know if you could get that. If you hopefully you can find somebody who's high on Abram Smith. But if you got to cut somebody here, which is what your question was, if you got to cut somebody, I'd be cutting Abram Smith. Maybe see if you can get a few fourths from him down the road. I don't know.
I would see if you could get a third from him in 2023 and just sell on the fact that Alvin Kamara's legal situation remains unresolved. And regardless of that, the expectation is he's facing some type of suspension. We're not expecting the world from Abram Smith, but maybe see if the Kamara owner, that would be my first stop. Go to the Kamara guy and say, do you want Abram? I'll give me a 2023 third
or a 20. I would take a 24, 25 third, depending on if you drafted already. If you get if your league is already switched over to having 2025 thirds, I would take a 2025 third for Abram Smith. What did you do? Pick him off the wire for nothing a few weeks ago?
Right. Start with the 2020. Yes, I picked him up as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
So start with 2023. Work your way down from there. If you can't get more than a couple of fourths, then take it, and then that way you get to keep the rest of your roster intact. But that's what I would do. Go to the Kamara guy. If the Kamara guy doesn't want him, just open it up to the league.
And I would take a couple of fourths if anybody wanted to throw me a few fourths. And if you can't get a third, that's what I'm saying.
See if you can get the third just because you can sell a guy like that right now on. This guy might play because the only other guy that is on the Saints right now, if Alvin Kamara gets suspended, which at this point we are expecting is at least a 2 to 4 game suspension, the only other guy they have is Mark Ingram, who's 33 at this point. So, these are the selling points for Abram Smith.
Yeah.
And then that way you don't have to cut somebody.
Or honestly, bro, if you could move, I know you have Nyheim Hines there, considering...
Move Hines to the Taylor owner for a third.
I was saying, move Abrams and Hines together for...
couple thirds? Or just to solidify the third?
No, for an upgrade at running back. I like Hines, but people like Hines. Probably, I think people like Hines more than they should at times. Didn't mean to rhyme.
Yes, you did.
But if you can find somebody who will overpay for Hines and Abram Smith, just on a hype, just on a hype, then upgrade at the position to a point where maybe you have somebody that you can put ahead of Gainwell and Madison on their depth chart. I think that might be a good idea.
Maybe like a Darrell Williams.
Yo, you have Gibson. Everybody's worried about Gibson's workload. Do you move Hines and Smith into McKissick?
You might have a little bit more success getting Brian Robinson.
Yeah, something like that.
And then that way, if Gibson goes down, you have his direct backup.
That's something that I would consider, Slim. Trying to move Abram Smith and Hines into Brian Robinson. That is a good idea. Good job.
Sure.
Nice.
Real quickly, P Diddy didn't want to miss this. Yeah, if we have a dynasty league
sorry
for
about that, bro. I didn't mean to skip that.
We don't. We do offer members only leagues. They're not dynasty at the moment. We can have that conversation when we cross that bridge. The caveat is you do have to be a member, and then that's kind of, I guess, what you can consider the buy-in for the league. John and I would co-commission it. And we're exploring options for all different formats of different leagues, whether it's a guillotine league, whether it's something a little different that we haven't done before, or that nobody has done before and is interested in exploring, like a different format for fun. But of course, we're going to have prizes for the winners. We will have that option. But the caveat is it is for members. So if that's something that you're interested in, great. If not, that's okay. But at this time, we don't have options for subscriber leagues. That's something that we would maybe look into down the road. But for now, it's just members.
And Alex, did that member chat kick in?
That's cool. I don't know how he did that, but that's cool.
Once you become a member after a certain point, you can.
When it's like
you can throw in a member
chat
as a perk for having that many months accumulated as a member.
That's pretty dope.
So thank you for that. Thank you for that $199 or that. Thank you for the
yeah.
Thank you for the super. Yeah.
You're already helping to keep the lights on out here. But appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. It looks good with that purple badge. I like that.
Yes, sir. And if there are any members who want to post, if your rookie draft, I know, actually, Alex, I think you still need to draft, but if there's any more team one-on-ones that you guys want to do, we can start that up maybe as soon as next week if you're interested. Let us know. Let us know in the Discord,
and honestly,
I'll do a quick.
Like, it doesn't even have to I haven't spoken about this with Nick yet, but I mean, we could do more than one league with the starting 12 once we get 12, or starting 10 once we get 12. We don't need to pick just zombie league or just guillotine, just redraft. We could figure out.
We can figure out format, whatever.
I know Iron, you really want
a
dynasty.
Man.
So hey, maybe we can figure out something like that. Maybe we can figure out a prize where we'll send you a hoodie or something, send you some merch, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we can once we have enough people to do the leagues we want to do right. I mean, we can set up multiple formats for you guys. As you guys are you'll be the starting 12. Because I want to do 14 team. I've never done 14
I want to do 14. I want to do 16. Some people do crazy 32 team leagues. I don't know if I can wrap my head around something like that just yet, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. I just saw a league, and somebody was describing a league, 3 quarterback. 10 team, 3 quarterback.
10 teams?
10 team, 3 quarterback.
My dad plays in a league like that.
That's wild.
You can. I don't think you have to start 3 quarterbacks, but you can start as many as 3. So he usually goes. He pays up for a good one, and then he'll get 2 or 3 cheaper options, and that's how he works.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, people do crazy things. They do. They have all different types of scoring settings, and
we can mess around with that. We can have fun with that.
Yeah.
In the leagues that we make with our members. So,
of course.
Yeah. Looking forward to being able to do that with y'all.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I look forward to it. But to get back to the chat, Bender, we're in the days of going wide receiver heavy, and I'm all aboard that train. Yeah, I've been more of a proponent this year of 0 RB than I've ever been. Now, of course, go figure. I got the third. I did a slow best ball mania draft for Underdog, and I got the 3rd overall pick. And the first two picks were Taylor and Cup. So I took McCaffrey. I was like, yeah, let's roll the dice on the. He's still the cheat code of fantasy. Yeah. Still the cheat code of fantasy. Let's see how it goes. Gets back to the end of the second round, and it's all running backs. AJ Green and T. Higgins are there, but I don't want those guys in the second round. I like T. Higgins a lot, but Aaron Jones is there. Javonte is there. Leonard Fournette is there. I think Javonte, all aboard the Javonte train. I'm with you there. But I think Javonte went the very pick right before me. And in one other draft, I had just taken Aaron Jones. So I was like, all right, let me diversify. I take Fournette. It gets back to me. Third round. I think it's the 27th pick overall. Nobody took Alvin Kamara. And I was like, Josh Allen was sitting right there too. I was like, damn. Well, I wasn't planning on going running back heavy ever this year. But again, and this is why sometimes I like putting videos out of me doing the underdog drafts, because you can get my strategy real time as it unfolds. I was never planning on going like heavy, robust RB this year. But when the situation presents itself, it's like, I'm not going to say no to it. So I scooped Alvin Kamara in the third round. I'm still waiting to make my fourth pick. I think I'm a couple picks away. Again, it's a slow draft. But McCaffrey at 3, Leonard Fournette at 18, 19, and then Kamara at 27. I'm like, well, I'm not drafting another running back in this draft. So, you never know. I am a big proponent, though, Bender, of going wide receiver heavy these days early. But but I'm not going to go out of my way to do it when there are obvious running backs to grab early on. It felt weird to do it. My wide receiver 1 at best is probably going to be Terry McLaurin or Cortland Sutton or something like that. But if all goes well at the running back spot, I'm going to be nice and
it would be real
there.
hard for me to even stand by that, even if those players were on the board when I'm picking. Maybe I would go. Would I go McCaffrey? I don't even know, man. I don't even know. I'm so wired in because I've been, I've been drafting wide receivers high in the first round, high in the second.
It would be
for the
either
past
Jefferson,
3 to 4 years, and
it would be Justin
finally
Jefferson
the
or
smart
Jamar
thing
Chase.
to do is caught up with what I was doing. I was not being forward thinking with that. It just sort of swung that way.
Yeah. Well, if you don't take McCaffrey at 3, your choices are Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. Or if you don't want McCaffrey, but you don't want one of those running backs, one of those wide receivers, you're looking at Derrick Henry or maybe even a guy like Austin Eckler.
Jelani Woods. No, I would go...
Jelani Woods 103 in a 2022 redraft.
Hey.
Now we've gone crazy.
Yeah. We went there.
Yeah, what'd that guy earlier say? We have a dead channel. We've officially reached dead channel status.
Yep. Jelani Woods, 103. Redraft, let's go. But no, I would go Justin Jefferson. I am so high on Justin Jefferson this year.
He's going to be
I am so high on Justin Jefferson. He was, I believe, number 1 in air yards last year. And what's changed? They drafted Jordan Naylor in the 5th round. And they didn't bring any free agents. Yes, they still have Adam Thielen and KJ Osborne and stuff there, but that wasn't stopping Justin Jefferson from being number 1 in air yards last year. Kirk Cousins, they've solidified him being there over the next 2 seasons.
You know what they did? They changed the philosophy of their organization with their general manager. I've been saying this all offseason and their coaching staff.
They swapped out Ty Conklin for Irv Smith.
Yeah, that's essentially
one for one replacement. That's the only change on offense.
Yeah, their offensive mindset has changed. The way that they do business in the front office has changed. They have moved more forward thinking with the analytics department. This offense is gonna throw the ball more than they have over the past 4 or 5 years. However long Mike Zimmer was there, I will say it all off season. Buy the Vikings skill players. Buy them. And it starts with Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, so he is my...
He would be your 103.
Wide receiver 1. He would be my... Honestly, I like going wide
Cup?
receiver. I like going wide receiver anywhere outside of basically 101 or 102. I'm going wide receiver. And I'm probably... He's my wide receiver 1 this year because of the air yards share last year and the lack of upgrades opposite him over the course of basically his career, especially this past offseason. I love Jamar Chase, but for this year, if I'm picking somebody for this year, I'm picking the guy that doesn't have T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Hayden Hurst. Say what you want about Hayden Hurst as competition for targets in the offense.
He was a tight end one with Matt Ryan.
Yeah,
for 1 year. a tight end 1, not the tight end 1.
He was, I believe, the tight end 10.
Yeah, might have been the 8 or 9, but yeah. Yeah. And that kind of plays into a little, the conversation that we wanted, the overarching conversation today that we did want to have as early predictions for guys to finish tops overall at their position. I'm swinging for the fences a little bit at wide receiver and going Mike Evans. But Justin Jefferson is so fantastic. He's so good. He's the clear top dog in that offense. And I think I'll say it all offseason. They are going to throw even more than they have been. Justin Jefferson's going to feast.
And Mike Evans might be the early bet too, but as soon as Chris Godwin comes back, I mean, he's still going to perform like a wide receiver 1, but it will be of a lesser tier. And there's no Chris Godwin coming from Justin Jefferson, which is why for me, I do have Justin Jefferson over him. But I do think that Mike Evans is a shoo-in to be a top 3 wide receiver this year. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Godwin is. The difference is let's see how he, and I love Godwin. Godwin's incredibly talented. Let's see how he does, especially first couple of games back, whenever that is, maybe say October, best case scenario, coming off the ACL. Adam Thielen will be healthy. And I know Chris Godwin is better than Adam Thielen, but Adam Thielen's a damn good wide receiver too. Regardless, I think they're both excellent wide receiver 1s. I think Adam Thielen
has done his work largely off of his touchdowns. That's what we love about him.
Yeah, he takes touchdowns away touchdowns. But he's the red zone guy.
He's
for the
not
Vikings.
An air yard monster. I think he got like 700 yards last year, which is very respectable. But it wouldn't surprise me if he took another step back this year in terms of overall yardage, but still put up considerable touchdown numbers.
I think the yardage goes forward. I do.
Okay.
This Vikings offense is going to be, I think they're going to throw.
All right. You're betting on a 32, 33-year-old wide receiver being another 1,000-yard receiver again?
Close to 1,000 yards. I think he can do it.
Okay. All right.
I think he can. I really do.
I'm going to have to reevaluate that.
I believe in the shift of offensive philosophy for this Vikings offense. And I think, this might be it for Thielen as far as putting up 1,000-yard seasons. But I wouldn't today, right now, being healthy, I wouldn't bet against him. That being said, Justin Jefferson, still easy top 3 for me.
And I mean, if anything were to happen to Adam Thielen as an aging wide receiver,
then Justin Jefferson is overall wide receiver 1. I mean, he's overall wide receiver 1.
Right.
Jefferson
because,
is.
I mean, I'm going to skip down here to this question about KJ Osborne before we go back up to the where we are in the chat.
We can. I love KJ
Osborne. I like him as a depth piece. I don't think he's ever going to be anything more than a depth piece. I think we have to worry about being. I mean, is he like James Washington? Is he just going to be that third? I think he is. He's going to be that third wide receiver in the office. I don't think he elevates above Thielen at any point this season. And I think next season, they'd probably try to address wide receiver 2 in this offense. And regardless of whatever happens with Thielen, they're going to have probably, I mean, I can't see them not investing in a wide receiver next year. If they want to compete in a window where they have Kirk Cousins, they're going to want to draft another wide receiver next year, and probably at a high draft for high draft capital.
Yeah, probably.
Which will push KJ Osborne back down the depth. I'm not saying I don't like KJ Osborne. I like James Washington. I like James Washington a lot. I think based off I think you agree what happened in Pittsburgh, he kept on getting pushed down the depth chart because there were just better wide receivers in the draft room. And I think that's eventually that's going to happen to KJ Osborne. He's not young. I believe he's going to be 25 this year, but he's not like 23 or something like that. Like, isn't he 25, 26?
I'll say this. KJ Osborne.
I can look that up, but
yeah, KJ Osborne last year had more catches and the second most receiving yards that James Washington has ever had. So I would say he is a step above James Washington.
Yeah, but you get my comparison there as
his
the type of
role
player he
probably
is.
doesn't evolve
Right,
past what it is.
It wasn't a one-for-one comparison. It was the situation that he will eventually find himself in year after year. Is a guy that is probably going to be no better than the third wide receiver on a depth chart. And
probably.
Again, he's going to be 25 this year. He's not. He's a third-year wide receiver, so he's not as old as I was alluding to. But we got to be careful. We got to be careful about overhyping these lower depth chart wide receivers.
So I'm not trying to overhype him, and no, I agree.
I'm not saying you are. I'm saying sometimes the fantasy community does, and then we end up like questions like, does KJ Osborne take over Thielen?
Yeah, no, he does not overtake Thielen. He does not overtake the healthy Thielen.
10, 12 wide receiver in the league perennially, even into his age 32 season. I know people are worried about the age, but we got to remember to keep KJ Osborne where KJ Osborne is in our dynasty fantasy rankings. I mean, Thielen has top 12.
Thielen has top 12 potential any given week, and maybe let's say top 18 potential for the season.
The only way KJ Osborne takes Adam Thielen's role is if Adam Thielen gets injured.
Yeah, but I would say yes, like a guy like Washington for Pittsburgh fell down the depth chart because they just kept adding wide receivers. The Vikings didn't do that this year outside of Naylor. Were they taking 190, 191?
Yeah, I think he was in the fifth round. Yeah,
something like that. So you're not talking about very high draft capital. Now, to that point, Osborne doesn't have very high draft capital, but he caught 50 balls last year. It's pretty good. It's not, that's not nothing. So I do think that KJ Osborne has wide receiver 3 upside. If I'm gonna continue to pump up the Vikings offense the way that I have, do I think he surpasses Adam Thielen? No. Do I think he's going to be a must roster player in even shallow redraft formats this year?
No.
He's gonna get
I'm
close.
Gonna say no.
I think he's gonna get close. I think maybe not must roster, but he's gonna have a stretch where you're gonna have to make a difficult decision as far as, do I drop this guy or somebody? Do I drop Osborne or somebody else? I do. I think he's gonna have a good season. And again, they didn't add anybody. He caught 50 balls last year, and I expect them to maybe they didn't probably run a ton of 3 receiver sets last year, the Vikings. I expect them to do that more this year. I think he improves on his numbers.
He will be a player that has 2 to 3, maybe 4 fantasy relevant games during the course of the season. You're not going to be able to predict it, and I mean, he most likely won't be in your lineup when it happens, but he'll stick around on your roster on the strength of those finishes that are unpredictable by nature. But he's never going to supersede that level of ranking of a player for me. Yeah, at the end of the season, he might be a low-end to mid-tier wide receiver 3, but I would bet on him being more of a high-end wide receiver 4.
I can predict it. He's going to play the Lions week 3. You fire him up then. He's going to play the Commanders week 4, 5, 6, 8. You fire him up then. He's going to play the Jets week 12. And
Johnny,
then he plays Lions again week 13.
Definitely, I'm gonna. It doesn't
really
matter. It doesn't really matter when KJ Osborne is gonna fire. I would hold Corey Davis on the Jets over KJ Osborne, Johnny. Absolutely.
He plays the Giants week 16. He is gonna be somebody worth considering for your playoff matchup. I'm calling it right now.
There and it's at home. When we have our DFS show throughout the offseason provided by Nick over here, we'll
KJ Osborne.
He'll remember that for those weeks. But
yes, sir.
But yeah, we'll go up to the chat now to run through what we skipped over.
Iron's got a question about Amon-Ra.
But just real quick, Corey Davis over.
Yeah, Corey Davis for now. Yeah, Corey Davis for now. Yeah, I agree. Until Osborne pops. But anyway, do you think you can try Amon-Ra plus a 211 and a 2023 second for Waddle?
Why would you?
Because it's Jalen freaking Waddle.
I'm thinking, can you get Amon-Ra in the 211 and the 202 and the second
No,
in
no, no.
2023?
Can you
If you're trying to acquire
Amon-Ra?
Waddle, yeah, I would try to shoot that
Yeah,
out
shoot
there.
for
But
that. Absolutely,
if I'm on
shoot
the other
for
end
that.
of that, I'm personally, I'm looking at it like, why would I ever give up Waddle right now?
Well,
but if you can move Amon-Ra in 2 seconds into Waddle, that would be a great move.
There's going to be Amon-Ra truthers out there after what he did to end the season. There's no doubt. Yeah, I would shoot for that. I would absolutely shoot for that, Iron. I would see if I hope
that gets it done on your end if you can acquire Waddle for that little. Because that is a win if you can acquire Waddle for that little.
And honestly, I would go up to Amon-Ra and a first if there's an initial no to that offer.
If there's an initial no, I would try for another second, even farther into the future,
so
and then
3
go to
seconds.
a first in 2024 or something like that, and see if they can get it done. But yeah,
okay, all right, but yeah, shoot for that. Absolutely shoot for that, because Amon-Ra, like, for all he's one, and I mentioned this in the Discord earlier. Amon-Ra is one of the most difficult players to pin this year because he's a 4th round talent. He's not a 4th round talent. He massively outperformed that. He's a 4th round player in a situation where he performed superbly at the end of the season when Detroit was without DeAndre Swift, without Jamal Williams. They were without their entire backfield. They were without TJ Hawkinson. All 3 of those guys come back. Plus they added J-Mo in the draft and Chark in free agency. So there's a lot all of a sudden going on in the Lions offense. So there's reason to have some pause, but at the same time, Amon-Ra, you got to give him his flowers. He balled out.
On the flip side, it was a first-year quarterback playing with a rookie, first year in the offense.
Yeah.
Quarterback playing with a rookie quarterback, a wide receiver, and a rookie first-year head coach.
Yeah.
And yes, it took basically the whole offense to crumble around him for him to see significant touches. But now that they've seen what he can do on 10, 11, 12 targets, wouldn't you not continue to exploit that connection?
You want him to be
moving forward
7,
if you're
8
smart.
Targets. Yes.
And yes, you consider you put DJ Chark and Jameson Williams out there to clear open the field and set up long bombs and stuff. But I don't think he's going to continue to get 12 targets a game, 11 targets a game moving into 2022 and 2023. I think he can get from anywhere from 8 to 10 weekly. I think he deserves that based off of what he did. Yeah, I think
7 or 8 should be 7 or 8.
7 or 8, maybe 9, maybe not 10.
Average.
But
should
7,
be the
8,
average.
9, something around there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they might not be high value targets, but he's going to rack them up. And in PPR, that's really all you need.
That's all you need in PPR. Yes. No, I'm not trying to, like I said, Amon-Ra is difficult to pinpoint. I'm just saying there's a lot of pieces coming back. I'm not saying automatically fade Amon-Ra, just that it's hard to project Amon-Ra because when all those guys were healthy to start the season, we didn't hear much from him. Yes, I expect him to absolutely be a part of this offense, like much more so than he was to start last season. But he himself even said, again, this is just coach speak, player speak, whatever. Amon-Ra himself said, I don't know if I'm going to put up those numbers again because look at what we now have going for us. I'm paraphrasing, but you get what I'm saying.
Right.
So if you can flip him for Waddle and a couple extra picks makes it happen, I ultimately say do it because you're talking about the 6th overall pick in the NFL draft last year to a 4th round pick. You take that chance every chance you get because Amon-Ra is difficult to pinpoint right now.
And yeah, I'm going to skip back down to the bottom of the chat here because L. Wood says Amon-Ra St. Brown was a volume play last year. Absolutely, and we're not arguing that. But based off of what he did in the NFL over the course of a 6-week span, I don't think they're going to move him back to being a 3-target wide receiver in 2023, like what he was at the beginning of the season before all those injuries happened. Yes, he was a volume play. Do we expect him to be a volume play to the extent he was last year when he was wide receiver 6 or wide receiver 4 over the last 6 weeks? No. But he's still going to be somewhat of a volume play. Can he get 7, 8 targets a weekly and still be effective every other week in fantasy? Yeah, especially in PPR. So he's not going to be a volume play in 2022 like he was in 2021, but he can still be somewhat of a volume play and still be valuable for you. So I, for one, am not completely shying away from Amon-Ra St. Brown, despite these other players coming back into the fold.
I need to draft more Jared Goff in my best balls.
Jared Goff is a winner of the free agent and
Jared Goff's
draft. He's a winner of the
2022 winner.
He's a winner of the offseason. I mean, weapons galore now. If you look quietly, one of the better skill position groups in the NFL. If you look at what they have from young skill position players,
they're off. They got a great, their offensive line has monumentally improved. It's not even like, oh, they're good, they're flying under the radar. No, they're like top 10 now. That offensive line is good. It's good.
Yeah, and I mean, once Jameson Williams comes back into the fold and is 100% healthy, Jameson Williams, DJ Chark, Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ Hawkins, and DeAndre Swift. Yeah, I like that group. Even Jamal Williams, who we just bought in a fantasy league that we're both in over the weekend while we were sick.
Who did we go out? Oh,
remember it was Pittman and Jamal Williams.
Pittman and Jamal Williams. Yeah. No, I like Jamal Williams.
I got a third. I had an extra third at that deal, by the way. That's the way
to squeeze it.
We should probably do this. I just threw it back to him. Got a third. So we got a third.
Stay negotiating. But
regardless, yeah. I mean, I still like Amon-Ra St. Brown probably more than most. I'm probably contrarian there. I probably am.
But that being said, if you can flip him in 2 seconds for Jalen Waddle,
do that, because I am contrarian on Jalen Waddle too. I predicted last week that he was going to be a better fantasy producer than Tyreek Hill based on what Tua does well. So yeah, that was my hot take. That was
Bender
my number
agrees.
one hot take.
Bender mentioned Waddle will be undervalued with Tyreek there. Yeah, he will. He fell to like the 4th round in a best ball that I did shortly after the Tyreek Hill. Now, we all love being fantasy degenerates here. Do best balls the day after big free agents or big trades happen. Like, wait 24 hours and do it. You'll get dope value on the guys who they are now teammates with.
It's a good way to capitalize on groupthink.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
And P. Diddy, if you go to, there's a link in the description of the podcast that says in the description for YouTube or whatever that says join here if you want to join as a member, and then you can be in a league with us once we get enough people, once we get 12 people to be able to move forward with that. But we would love to have you as a member, bro.
Yes, sir. Yeah. First link in the description. It says join this channel to get access to perks. And then there are different levels of membership. It'll be spelled out there. If you have any more questions for us, you can join the Discord. That's the second link in the description. The Discord, you don't need to be a member to, just shouting out the Discord. You don't need to be a member to join it. Keep the conversation going at any time. Keep the conversation going with us, with the community. If you have questions, if you just have things you want to talk about or yell about in certain situations, sometimes I'm in a yelling mood, smashing my keyboard like this guy's a screaming buy. Or go get Amon-Ra.
Or even if you just pulled off an awesome trade and you're like, yo, look what I got for this. Even if you just need a nudge and a reassurance that what you're doing on a trade and what you're looking at on a trade is the right move. We got a dope community growing who will help you, and we'll help you in the Discord as well. So join the Discord if y'all in here and you haven't yet. It's dope, and I for one have to be more active in the Discord. I do. But Iron, you did 14 teams already. That's big boy fantasy, man. Good job.
Yeah,
we want to join those ranks.
That's what I want to do.
And what's Alexander Madison's price for somebody trying to sell to a Cook owner?
Don't settle. I mean,
don't settle, and I think your value might be highest in season when Cook leaves a game in the middle of the game and doesn't come back for the rest of because it happens. Cook has stayed healthier the past few seasons, but he still has games where he'll leave a game banged up, and then there'll be some question marks, and then Madison looks a whole lot better to that Cook owner. So Well, he's always going to be valuable to the Cook owner. I don't think peak value is right now. I think peak value for selling a handcuff is in season at some point.
Yeah, because the thing with Madison is he's not a weekly fantasy viable play. When Dalvin Cook is in there, Madison might get you 2 fantasy points. Maybe. He's not like this, he gets you 7 to 8 fantasy points.
He's not
every
even, Darrell
week.
Williams is going to do that to you. Now, would I rather have Alexander Madison or Darrell Williams? Alexander Madison. But the difference is one of them does have some standalone value, and to your point, one of them doesn't.
Yeah. One guy might get you 7 to 8 points a week. The other guy's is a clear bench player until the starter's hurt, and then he's putting up the same RB1 numbers that Dalvin Cook was putting up. We've seen it happen. When Dalvin Cook goes down, Alexander Madison is an RB1, is charted like an RB1, and is projected like an RB1 that week. It's not even like, he's like an interesting RB2. It's like, no, this dude needs to be in your lineup. So because we're not playing games right now, Madison has significantly less value than, say, week 5 or 6 when Dalvin Cook is nursing something. So hold for now, Johnny. Depending on how desperate the guy is, you could get a second-round pick for him.
Yeah, stranger things have happened.
Or a guy who's a little bit more of a consistent week-in, week-out player. One of the two.
And Slim, you got offered McCaffrey for your Gibson and Akers.
Do it. I think I would do it.
That's hard to say no to, man.
I think I would do it. Look, I had concerns about McCaffrey. The second he went down for the second time this year, I was like, we all probably had the same reaction. I'm done, right? Because in that moment, at that time, it's like, this is the 3rd or 4th straight injury that he suffered 2 years in a row, and now he's played like a total of 8 games over the past 2 years. And yes, he's still a cheat code, but he's the most unreliable cheat code in recent memory when it comes to fantasy.
And we were saying on this channel that you should buy him when that happened.
But when Christian McCaffrey is on the field, even in the past 2 seasons, it's not like the past 2 years have been like, what could have been. It's like, no, he's still averaging 30 fantasy points a game even when he's out there post multiple injuries
with terrible quarterbacks.
And bad
early in the season last year, if you look at his overall totals last year, even when you're looking at the amount of games he played in, the overall totals look a bit meh. They do, because I looked them up. But if you remember, early in the season, Sam Darnold was rushing for a touchdown a game. Those touchdowns should have been Christian McCaffrey's. And then what did he move into? Cam Newton, who would run on the goal line every other goal line possession and take away touchdown opportunities for Christian McCaffrey. So Christian McCaffrey's box totals should have looked a lot better last year, and he's due for some a positive touchdown regression this season as well. So even if he's gonna come back and be better than he was last year while he was healthy. He is.
Just want to throw out there, Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa is trending on social media. Tyreek Hill had a press conference. Quote, Tua actually has one of the prettiest balls I've ever caught in my life. Tua's a very accurate quarterback. I'm very confident in him. The sky is the limit, blah, blah, blah. It is overreaction time of the offseason. But
oh, man, put Tua on the block.
Tua on the block. Throw him on the block. Price just went up. Price just went up.
Hey, yo, Alex, any point in buying low on Mac Jones? Not exciting. I know his upside is low, but he seems like he could have a safe floor as your 3rd quarterback with QB2 upside. He'll improve from last year and is still cheap. My only issue there is, do you want to pay up? Because, yes, the fantasy community is down on Mac Jones because he is a boring quarterback, but you're still going to have to pay up for the fact that he's 23-year-old quarterback with the long-term value right now. Do you want to pay up for what will be a QB2 as your QB3 when you could pay less and get equitable value elsewhere? You know what I mean? Like, you can find QB2 quarterbacks with QB2 upside that aren't going to cost you as much as Mac Jones will. Now, if you can find somebody to let go of Mac Jones for a deal, then do that. I, for one, sold Mac Jones for way too little in a Superflex Dynasty League last year before I knew what I was doing and before he had shown that he is the quarterback that he is. It was second in Rashad Bateman and Kellen Mond. It wasn't could have got more. But on the low end, that's kind of what you're thinking. If you're like a rookie wide receiver that somebody likes and a second round pick and a super developmental quarterback is probably what you're thinking for Mac Jones in the Superflex League. So if you're trying to get QB2 upside, I wouldn't want to, for a QB3 spot, I wouldn't want to pay that much. But technically that is not paying a lot for Mac Jones. You know what I mean? Like, you're kind of in a tough spot paying up for Mac Jones as your QB3. You're overpaying for your QB3.
Yeah, and I would say I don't even know if now is a buy low window for a guy like Mac Jones because, you know, we're coming off his rookie season when we didn't have high, even in Superflex, fantasy expectations for him anyway, and now the vibes are good on him. You know, everyone said he's trimmed down, he's lost his stomach, you know, he's working on his diet, he's focusing on his sleep schedule, like all of these little things in the offseason, right, that you can do as a professional athlete to better yourself. Those are all the reports in the news right now about Mac Jones. So I wouldn't even call this a buy low window for him. So to that point, yeah, you're probably going to have to give up a little bit more than you want for a guy who tops out as a boring QB2.
Like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, Zach Wilson has to be cheaper than Mac Jones right now. I'd rather have Zach Wilson as my QB3 if I'm looking for somebody with QB2 upside. If I'm looking at somebody cheaper than Mac Jones, I mean, who's the guy?
Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, Davis Mills. If you're looking for a QB3 with QB2 upside, Davis Mills, and you won't have to pay nearly as much as you need to get Mac Jones.
I think I'd throw my hat in the ring for Lawrence. I think I would, because I feel like we're not hearing about him, and I feel like nobody's saying, like, right now the news is coming out of Jaguars camp.
I think that's the guy you got to pay up for. If we're talking about paying up for a QB3,
but
you're gonna
relative
have to pay.
Buy low windows, then you can flip your current. Who's your current QB2, Alex? You can flip your current QB2 plus maybe a little extra for Trevor Lawrence.
But that's not the discussion. The discussion is quarterback 3 with quarterback 2 upside. If you're talking about Mac Jones paying up too much,
QB1 upside.
What?
I said, give me a QB2 with QB1 upside.
Yes, but in this particular situation for Alex, if we're saying that Mac Jones is, you're shooting too high for your QB3,
this is not a buy low window for Mac.
Then yeah, I mean, and it's not a buy low window for Trevor Lawrence in Dynasty.
I would say it's closer. I mean,
it's a more of a buy low window on Justin Fields. Think about what we were just talking about. Somebody was thinking about dropping Justin Fields as a one.
Slim was
league.
Like, do I drop Justin Fields in a one quarterback league?
It's Justin Fields buy low right now. It's not Trevor Lawrence. It's Justin Fields. It's Trey Lance. Look at all the bad vibes on Trey Lance.
That's gone. Trey Lance buy low window's gone.
I would hope so by now. But if there's somebody that's sleeping in your league with Trey Lance, it's Trey Lance buy low window right now. It's not Mac Jones. It's not Trevor Lawrence. It's Davis Mills. It's Trey Lance. It's Justin Fields.
Fields I could get behind, and I like Mills. I've been a supporter of Mills. The problem is his long-term stability is not close compared to these other names.
Right.
But yes, you would not have to pay that much for
Jameis Winston. I'd rather Jameis Winston is a cheaper option. I'd rather have him as my QB3.
Yeah.
There are a lot of guys that I would rather have as my QB3 over Mac Jones, not because I don't like Mac Jones, but because I think I would have to pay up more to get Mac Jones versus some of these other names that we mentioned. Derek Carr, who would cost more theoretically in Dynasty, considering Derek Carr's age and Mac Jones' age? Who costs more? I mean, Derek Carr probably by a little bit. But what's the difference? Not much. Not as much as you would think.
What compared to Mac Jones? Is that who you said?
Yeah.
I would say it's significant. Derek Carr had a good season last year. They just added Devontae Adams and Darren Waller's back. I would say it's
for the
sizable.
Casual fantasy owner, if they have Derek Carr on their team and you offered a Mac Jones and a second in a hype class in 2023,
maybe
you could catch an owner sleeping.
Maybe.
Who overvalues youth, overvalues that a second in 2023, and presses yes on that. Maybe. It's possibilities out there.
Maybe.
I've seen weirder trades go down. You traded, I think, Marcus Mariota for a second-round pick.
It was the first time dynasty player. I might have done a little too much.
But that's what I'm saying. It happens. You can catch owners sleeping. You can catch owners sleeping.
Yeah. Well, joke's on me. Mariota's the starter now. But yeah, look around the league, look at everybody's quarterback situation, look at who's working with a surplus, and yeah, if it is a name that you think people are sleeping on relative to how good they actually are, like a Derek Carr, yeah, maybe see if you can turn your QB2 plus a little extra.
If you have Mac, I would like Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
I'd rather have Kirk Cousins as a elder cheap QB2. Jared Goff, we just talked about it. Jared Goff. Think about what you have to give up to get Jared Goff. Somebody's probably giving away Jared Goff, who's going to be playing all year this year, and despite whatever the Detroit Lions do next year, will probably playing as the QB1 on some other team in the NFL. Jared Goff probably will. So, I mean, if you're looking for a cheap QB3 who can perform like a QB2, there are much cheaper options, much less exciting options than Mac Jones. Your depth chart doesn't look as pristine if you're having Jared Goff there over a Mac Jones, but the overall end result might be the same year to year as long as they're both playing in the NFL. So, yeah, I would think about stuff like that, or options like that. Is Fields worth a 23 first?
Not in one quarterback.
Not in one quarterback, but in a two quarterback. I mean, at this point, yeah. I think so. His value is low. I think that's about what you would have to pay. Now, I sold Justin Fields last year after that 100-yard game he had on the ground in a Superflex league and got a haul. But right now,
treasure chest of picks.
Yeah, that Fields' value is so low to where, I mean, it would cost a first right now.
Yeah.
And Jason, where's Jelani Woods been going in your rookie drafts, mocks included?
I'll let you take this one, but for the most part, the third round, regardless.
One QB or two QB. Most of my leagues are 2 QB. One of them is 1 QB. But it's mostly around the
third round.
If I'm in the draft, late second, but mostly third round. I haven't seen him slip past the third round.
I haven't seen him. Yeah, the only time I saw him go in the second round was literally the last pick of the second round to John. That was it. Otherwise, Jason, it's the third round. You can comfortably get him there, and I love that spot for Jelani.
And if you miss out on Jelani, go Dan Bellinger. He is my third favorite tight end in this draft class over after Jelani, then Trey McBride. Because y'all might think I don't like Trey McBride. I like Trey McBride, not as much as Jelani, though. Y'all already know.
We need for Bellinger to hit. We need Brian Daboll's offense to start throwing to the tight end a little bit more.
Hey, look at what happened to Dawson Knox. You just wait on Brian Daboll's RAS above 9 having tight end.
Yeah.
Wait a few seasons and he's gonna pay off for you.
9 touchdowns on 70 targets. It's hard to replicate, but we'll take it. But then at that point, you flip him for a first-round pick. Boom.
Yes, sir.
2026 class, here we come.
All right, well, since that you left that Jelani Woods question for me, I'm going to leave Jones's next question for you. Thoughts on Alec Pierce? Think might be a favorite rookie wide receiver after Sky?
Yeah, the reports have been good. You never, and when I say the reports, you never want to overreact. Again, we never want to overreact to guys popping off in shorts playing against air. But one of the Colts beat reporters, Stephen Holder, I think his name is. Yeah, Stephen Holder. He's a senior writer for the Athletic who covers the Colts, and he even said this was a couple weeks ago or so. He was like, I don't want to overreact. I don't want to get I don't want to get too in the weeds on worrying about how things go in the offseason. But he was like, but Alec Pierce was the best player on the field today. He said that.
Man,
I think this is
a rookie mini.
Yeah, I was about to say it.
I would hope the second round rookie wide receiver would be the best performer at wide receiver, considering it's rookie camp and who are the other wide receivers drafted.
Not best receiver. He said he was the best rookie, best player at rookie camp that year. I found the tweet, and he said, he even said, I considered not tweeting this. He literally caveated his tweet by saying, I shouldn't have tweeted this, but Alec Pierce, now I'm quoting word for word, quote, Alec Pierce had some moments of dominance in today's Colts rookie camp practice, absolutely killed it in the red zone. Now, does this mean that he's going to have a 2-touchdown game week 1 in September? Of course not. But the Colts situation at wide receiver after Michael Pittman is wide open. They got a significant upgrade at quarterback this year in Matt Ryan. This is a team that expects to compete this year. I think Alec Pierce is a little bit more of a polished rookie coming in. I think he's a little older. I don't think he's like 21. I think he's
a little bit older. I wouldn't say he's polished, but he has a high athletic ceiling.
He's very athletic.
I don't think he is polished.
I guess I think he's a little older.
He is a little older, but he has a very nice athletic profile. That's what he has going for him.
Yeah. So there's reason for optimism. There's reason to believe he could have an every down role for this team somewhat early. Again, there's not much outside of Michael Pittman in this wide receiver room. T.Y. Hilton is gone. Who moved on? Not Paris Campbell. Who was the other guy that moved on for them? Zach Pascal moved on. There's lots of opportunity here in this wide receiver room. I think Alec Pierce could potentially take Paris Campbell's job if we're giving it to Paris Campbell. Let's assume Paris Campbell is a starter based on merit and being a veteran to start the season, but Pierce could leapfrog Paris Campbell just because Paris Campbell is an interesting young player, but we haven't seen enough of him to crown him yet. The opportunity is wide open. He's going to be playing with a good quarterback, and he's not going to have to deal with any top corners this year. That's Pittman's job.
Thank you for becoming a member. Much appreciated, man. Much appreciated, P. Diddy.
Oh, there we go. Hey, P. Diddy, welcome, man.
Hey,
that's awesome.
Throw some emojis in there, bro. Now
you got all we got all emojis to play with now. Wait, why don't I see his name didn't switch to green?
It just might take a second to refresh.
It might take a little minute. Okay. Okay. There you go.
What I will say about Alec Pierce, though, is, I mean, he never had a 1,000-yard season in college. That's not a requisite for NFL production projecting out, but I mean, he never exceeded that in college. I mean, that counts for something. Now he is only 22 years old, so he's not an older prospect. But what he is he's a size speed freak. 6'3", 208 pounds, 4.41 speed.
It's pretty
great measurables. But when you look at that, I mean, you look at if you on Player Profile and playerprofiler.com and comparisons come with a large grain of salt, but his number one comparable on here is Cody Latimer, who was a Denver Broncos wide receiver. And then I like to go down the rabbit hole sometimes with these comparisons just to get a better idea of the overall group and not rely on one player. So the best comparable for Cody Latimer is Aaron Dobson. Not very good. So Alec Pierce could be one of these size speed freak guys who are depth players in the NFL. They might get 1 year of relevance, like a Brashad Perryman or a Tyrell Williams or something like that. Now, he does have high draft capital. That helps. But again, he didn't technically ever really break out in college. He was never heavily utilized in college. So he would have to be somewhat of an outlier to be a heavily utilized wide receiver in the NFL. Straight out the gate. So if you like Alec Pierce, unless you're playing against smart owners, I think he's a guy that you can let another team draft and then you trade for them when they don't pop off right away in the NFL, if you like them.
So potentially buy low by week 4 or 5 or something like that.
Because again, isn't a super producer in college, might not be a super producer straight off the bat, despite how it might look on the depth chart.
Right. I'm not expecting to, if it's a two catch 20-yard week 1, I'd be like, okay, I don't bat an eye at that. I'm not surprised by that,
I think he's a guy that's going to have to grow into his overall NFL role and NFL
Paris
ceiling.
Campbell starts over him to start.
So I think you can take advantage of that in your league and not draft Alec Pierce and then pick him off somebody's team for a much less of a investment cost a couple of weeks into the season. Unless you're playing against smart owners like Nick. Because I know I'm not going to be able to get Alec Pierce away from Nick.
Nah, if he starts off with 4 or 5 bad games and somebody comes calling, I say, see you later and hang up.
Peace.
But, I mean, there's reason for optimism, long term.
Now, I'm going to leave this question to you here again to start off because it's about Deontay. Is Deontay a sell high?
It's one of my favorite guys.
Yeah,
is
because
Deontay
you talked
a sell
about last
high?
year. Deontay Johnson probably, or last pod, Deontay might be a sell high.
Your assessment, you kind of answered your own question, Johnny. Yeah, he is a sell high. I think so. And this is somebody who you're talking to somebody who I've been a big Deontay guy since his rookie year. Seeing through the garbage that was Mason Rudolph throwing ducks at him, even though he was wide open all rookie season. He is a sell high for the very reason that you brought up. A lot of his production, and I don't want to poo-poo Deontay's talent or ability, but I don't intend to. However, a lot of his production was tied to the fact that Ben Roethlisberger was burnt toast last year. He was absolutely cooked, and he was just looking to avoid getting hit as much as he possibly could because his broken, brittled body couldn't take it anymore. And his arm was shot. His arm was gone. Ben used to be a big-time thrower of the football. In his 20th season in the NFL, he was not that. So he was throwing little 5-yard outs, getting the ball out to Deontay and Najee as well for what that's worth, just getting the ball out as quick as he possibly could. Deontay was a big benefactor from a production standpoint of the fact that Ben couldn't throw deep anymore and almost in a lot of situations didn't even bother trying to throw deep anymore. So with that being said, I do not expect 169 targets. I think that's what he had. Nice last year. I don't expect that again next year. Could he get 130 targets? Sure. Yeah.
But that lowers his ceiling considerably.
But it lowers his ceiling. And to that point, I see a positive correlation for guys like Chase Claypool, who, by the way, his ADP Deontay's ADP is in the 4th round, and Claypool's is in like the 10th. Go get Claypool.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I don't like I like George Pickens as much as the next guy, but we shouldn't be fading Chase Claypool this much.
But Claypool didn't die.
And he's 23 right now,
He's 23.
He's 23.
Does his long-term outlook with the Steelers look great? Maybe not. He's got some clear maturity issues that he needs to work on.
But he was 22 when that happened.
Very talented player.
I had maturity issues that I need to work on. Hell, at 30 I did. So,
right.
It was a learning experience for him too. I'm sure he's going to come back next year as the better player with the better head on his shoulders.
You would hope so.
Right.
But to bring it back home on Deontay, I do think he's a sell high. I'm not worried about him. I think he's going to be just fine, but just fine is not the wide receiver 8. Do I think he can be a strong, steady wide receiver 2? Yeah, but right now you can command a wide receiver 1 asking price. So you threw Jalen Waddle in the chat. Is Jalen Waddle a viable target? Sure. Hell yeah. I would almost consider doing that 1-for-1. And then see if you could buy low on Deontay next year after we expect a little bit of a dip in value.
You might be able to get a little bit more out of the Waddle loan, or
you might be able to get Waddle
off of the common perception of where Deontay Johnson is in his fantasy career right now. It's weird. Deontay Johnson, to me, he is the alternate universe Robert Woods to me.
What do you mean alternate universe?
The perception on him is completely opposite. When I think they might be kind of similar players. When you look at what not stylistically, but just fantasy finishes. I think
90 catches, like 1,100 yards,
not even
7
that.
touchdowns.
Well, sure, yeah, something like that. But I wasn't even really thinking stylistically. It was more, Robert Woods was perennially underrated, would perform as a wide receiver 2, and had some wide receiver 1 seasons.
Okay.
I think Deontay Johnson is a wide receiver 2 that will have a high-end wide receiver 2 that will have some wide receiver 1 seasons, but in this alternate universe, he is thought of like a wide receiver 2 instead of thought of like a wide receiver 1, a high-end to mid-tier wide receiver 1 versus Robert Woods in our universe,
what's he getting drafted as?
who has always been thought of as kind of a low-end wide receiver 2 who overperforms.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta look. He's alternate universe.
That's honest. Actually, from that perspective, that's fair. I can see that because even after the wide receiver 8 finished last year, he is currently being drafted. Deontay is as the wide receiver 17. What's wrong with you people? Not you people. You guys are fine, but everybody on Underdog. So, okay, I see that point where it's like, what does he have to do to be drafted in the 2nd round of redraft? Because he finished as a wide receiver 1 last year. Why is he not going in the 2nd round of redraft? So I see your point. I see your point. Yeah, that's fair. That is exactly what happens with Robert Woods. He puts up a strong wide receiver 14 finish on the season, and then you can still have him in the 4th round of redraft, which doesn't make sense to me. But with Deontay, you can point to the fact that he did have a bona fide, clear-cut wide receiver 1 finish last year. And so, yes, he's a sell high, but I'm not selling him for anything less than a wide receiver 1 value.
Yes, because that's what I think his value is right now. He just showed
that being said, explore it. Explore it, because I do think he is going to take a bit of a hit in production this year. But then just go get him next year for 2023.
Yeah.
On a buy low for less than what you paid for. After the guy who paid for him is fed up.
I see you.
Yes, sir. That's called a boomerang.
The pawn shop?
Yeah. Best I can do is a 2nd round pick and a couple of 4s.
Yeah, I'll sell them to you, but next year you're selling them back to me for cheaper. The pawn shop, bro. I see it.
Best I can do is Mac Jones.
CMC, do the trade. Johnny Jones, what about
Slim?
Allen?
I do this. Yeah, do the CMC trade. Gibson and Akers, that's strong depth to part with, but the upside of Christian,
and that's tantalizing.
Yeah.
But
the upside of Christian McCaffrey is a literal league winner.
Yeah. and Kareem Hunt or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You know what I mean? Keenan Allen. Not Kareem. I don't know why I said Kareem. I can't read. Keenan Allen.
Keenan Abdul Allen.
Yeah. Shut up. We're 2 hours in, bro. We getting goofy.
We're getting
Keenan
loopy.
Allen.
The NyQuil's kicking in.
Hey, look. Keenan Allen's been a wide receiver 1 for his entire career. Outside of injury, we expect Justin Herbert to be in consideration for, again, repeating as the QB2 in fantasy. Nothing's changed in his offense except his O-line's gotten better and his number 2 running back got better and his tight ends got better from a receiving perspective. So Keenan Allen probably gonna have the same target share from a great quarterback. I don't see Keenan Allen's another guy like Robert Woods, where not to the same extent as Robert Woods, but I think Keenan Allen's been disrespected in fantasy too over the course of the past few seasons.
He had
he'll continue to be because he's getting up there in age, but people haven't been treating him like a every year wide receiver 1.
No. You know what it is? He had back-to-back season-ending injuries like 5 years ago, and I think that's what people remember. Like, it was 2 straight, like week 1 or week 2 season-ending injuries, but then he followed it up with a couple of wide receiver 1 finishes. But now because that happened, he's a injury-prone potential wide receiver 1 instead of wide receiver 1.
Yeah. No, but Keenan's great. I would buy Keenan in right now if I can at that age discount. I'm all about that if I'm a contender. Yep. And again, welcome to the family, Slim, or not Slim, P Diddy.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate
That's awesome.
You becoming a member. We'll add you to the Discord after this. My computer ran out of battery.
Yeah, he joined up.
Okay.
He joined up.
I'll change you to a member then. My computer ran out of battery. I can't do that right now.
Ah, there you go.
The computer that I look stuff up on, not the streaming computer.
Got you.
You won't be able to see us. Boom. But
that
do you
would
think
be bad.
the Steelers re-sign Deontay Johnson? Elwood? It's really tough to say. They have the cap space too, but they also have some players on the offensive and defensive lines that need to get locked up as well. It will be interesting to see which positions they put an emphasis on. Historically, it has not been wide receiver.
Yeah, historically, no.
They didn't re-sign Mike Wallace. They opted for Antonio Brown, who turned into one of the best wide receivers in the league. They didn't re-sign Antonio Brown due to him being weird.
Fell off the deep end, yeah.
But they went with Deontay and Chase Claypool and drafted Chase Claypool
You can go back even further.
Yeah.
It's Antonio Holmes. They let him go to the Jets. Or did they trade him to the Jets? Regardless, Antonio Holmes was a Super Bowl MVP for them and let him walk. Not the next season, but I think the following season. Martavis Bryant, similar skill
but
set.
he had off the field issues. That's why they didn't re-sign him. If we're talking about them re-signing their star wide receiver, I don't know. I don't know if
I guess I'm naming names for the sake of look at the pipeline of talent that the Steelers
applies.
They roll out of bed and are able to identify like this guy, you're going to be good. Or you just we'll draft you into our organization.
And George Pickens is honestly the next guy there, which is why you can find Chase Claypool's ADP so low in the 10th round, like you said.
All they do is churn out wide receiver talent, but also all they do is organizationally, they don't screw themselves. These are the types of teams, and I put them in the same vein as like the Baltimore Ravens. They make a draft day trade where they trade their wide receiver 1, and everybody immediately says the Cardinals are huge winners, when it's like, no, the Ravens just took a 25-year-old receiver, turned him into a better first-round pick than the pick that they used to draft the guy in the first place. Now they have more cap space, more flexibility, and they just drafted a center who will probably play a decade plus for them and protect Lamar Jackson. This is what smart organizations do. The Steelers
especially
are one
with
of
the
those
inflation
teams.
With the wide receiver price
That's
tag
another
right now.
thing.
The wide
That's
receiver,
another thing.
all these wide receivers are through the player empowerment that movement that's been going on in the NFL over the past, I'd say, 2 years, really, when it really gained strength, really this past season. But I'd say it's been around for the past 2-3 seasons where the players have been increasingly given reign to be able to decide their own future in the league outside of contracts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
so Deontay's probably gonna,
he deserves to go out and try to get
get his money.
Yeah, highest paid available, because he was just the wide receiver 8 in fantasy and one of the best wide receivers in the league last year.
Right, he knows the numbers he put up
with Ben Roethlisberger, so he can point to that and say, "Look, y'all pay me." So that could happen. The Steelers could balk at the asking price, and you could be looking at what they prepared for in a Chase Claypool, George Pickens, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 situation. Maybe not in that order. We'll see. But yeah, I think there's a route to where Deontay Johnson is not a Steeler in his age 27 season. Yeah.
I feel like I've almost talked, and again, I love Deontay. I feel like I talked myself into thinking I would lean no. That he does not, that he plays elsewhere by the time it comes time for him to get his money.
Now, maybe at some point the NFL realizes that they might be overreacting and pulls back a little bit from these wide receiver trades. We might see some pullback after the AJ Brown trade and
some course correction.
Course correction. That's the right after the Tyreek and the Devontae Adams trade. Maybe some of these trades don't go as well for these organizations as we all think they will and hope they will. We've seen it in the past, before the last few seasons where free agent wide receiver acquisitions really worked out. It wasn't something that worked out year to year. The big free agent wide receivers it was rare not rare, but they did not work out all the time, like we saw with Stephon Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins and these other guys. When you look at free agent signings in the offseason and how hyped they are, look at the Dream Team Eagles. It wasn't a wide receiver, but these wide receiver acquisitions have worked out for teams a lot more consistently over the past 2 seasons than they have historically beyond that sample size. And that could happen again this year. It could, to a couple of these wide receivers. We could see NFL teams pull back from going that route, which has been successful over the last 2 seasons. And if that happens, maybe Deontay Johnson sticks around. But right now, I think he goes elsewhere. Trades for Deontay in fantasy, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, it's got to be.
I'd want a first plus, 23 first plus.
Yeah, like give me somebody whose vibes are good right now, like 23 plus. Give me Travis Etienne, like give
Claypool and a first, 23 first.
Claypool, and if I'm getting Claypool, I'm asking for a first and then a couple of seconds.
There you go. See,
like load up. Get a haul. If it's a guy like Claypool, if you're trading Deontay for Claypool, I want the first and I want a couple of seconds. Like, you can ask for that for Deontay right now, and if it's like, no, I'll give you Claypool in the first, I'll say you can keep Claypool. Like, demand what the guy is, what he proved he's worth, and what he proved he's worth is a bona fide wide receiver 1. These are the talking points, right? These are the talking points that you use
a wide receiver
to
2
sell
and a
high.
first get you a wide receiver 1. Maybe it's a wide receiver 2 and a couple of seconds and a first get you that wide receiver 1, depending on the wide receiver.
Ask for the moon to start. Ask for the moon to start. You might think it sounds like too much right away, but we're talking about the wide receiver 8 last year. Now, if you're talking to a co-mate or an owner or somebody in your league who is savvy to these types of things and realizes, Ben is gone, and that was a big crutch for Deontay's production, I would say, okay, I'll get back to you.
Yeah,
and I'll
but
go
there's
talk
this
to my
other school of
league
thought
mates.
where, hey, anything is better than Ben Roethlisberger. I expect him to be
Right,
better
yeah,
than last
sure.
season.
You got a quarterback
There's a
upgrade
school
this
of
year.
thought where you could go along that route and go down that rabbit hole, and then you're stuck overpricing or overvaluing Deontay. So you can run it. There are ways to exploit the narratives here if you're trying to sell Deontay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a variety of ways you can go. I mean, hell, go ask for Tyreek Hill. Like, seriously, you might not be able to, you probably can't also ask for a first there, but it depends. Like, Johnny, what's your situation? Like, are you a contender? Go ask for Tyreek Hill. Are you?
Go ask for, yeah, I would. I think that's shooting a little high. You would probably have to add something to that. And based on what we've said, I would rather go for Waddle plus than Tyreek. But if you're shooting for the moon,
yeah, I mean, Deontay's 3 years
Cooper
younger.
Kupp
I don't think it's so outrageous.
Cooper Kupp is what, 28, 29?
Cooper Kupp's 29. That is
Deontay,
that is
hey.
Too
so
ambitious.
People overvalue age and get scared off. I got Mike Evans when he turned 27 for a first and at that point nothing Rashad Penny.
Like a broken Rashad Penny.
Right.
Yeah.
Like people overvalue. Not overvalue. People get scared off by age real easy, and the fact that Cooper Kupp is 29 and Deontay Johnson's coming into, I believe, his age 25 season.
He's 25 now. Yeah, I don't know if he's turning 26. I'm gonna look that up.
Okay. Thanks for looking that up. But yeah, I mean,
he'll turn. He will turn 26 in a couple of weeks, or July 5th.
Exploit the fact that he's still 25 and sell him now for Cooper Kupp. If you only got to add a second on that, like I would do that all day.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna shoot for the moon, shoot for the moon.
Right.
Don't go Tyreek Hill. We're expecting a step back. Then don't go for a guy that we're expecting a step back for. Go for the moon and go for Cooper Kupp.
Well, we are expecting a step back for Deontay, but that's not the selling point that we're going off of.
Well, no. I mean in who you're acquiring in Tyreek Hill.
We're
expecting a step back for Tyreek Hill. I wouldn't try to acquire Tyreek Hill. I'd shoot higher than that. If you're trying to offload a guy like Deontay at peak value.
All right.
See if you can get somebody to come off of a 29-year-old wide receiver one last year.
Contender, but you need a wide receiver. Ask for Waddle. Ask for Higgins. Like hell. Like,
are you trying to acquire Deontay?
No, he's trying to sell high on Deontay.
Okay.
Ask for Waddle. Ask
for Waddle plus. Honestly, at this point,
you know, ask for Stephon Diggs. Screw it. Like, yeah, shoot for the moon. Ask for higher. And your talking points are.
I like that Stephon Diggs option. If he's 28 years old, people might get scared
he's not
off
that
by
old.
that. People, if you can get DK Metcalf for Deontay Johnson, I would try to get
a little. You could ask for DK plus.
Yeah, I would try to get a little more. See if you can throw a second on top of that. Because look at where Deontay was ranked, and look at where DK was, and look at the quarterback.
Right. Look at DK's
that
situation.
DK's going to be dealing with. Right.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, they continue to add speedy wide receivers. It doesn't make sense. They had Eskridge. They brought in Bo Melton, who runs a 4.3. They just signed Marquise Goodwin, who will take up reps. So like it's weird. But yeah, if you can use all of that to your advantage and acquire DK plus for Deontay, I would do that.
Yeah, but get a pick out of it as well because DK's vibes are down right now. Deontay's are steady good. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just trade Deontay for a couple of 23 firsts.
Yeah, I mean, sure. If you feel like, I mean, he said he's a contender but needs a wide receiver, so you probably don't want a pick package, but you could go that route as well. I want two 2020, or I need a 2023 first.
Think about what you can trade. First. Sometimes it's what you can turn the return into. Think about what you could trade the 2023 firsts for right now.
Cooper Kupp. So yeah, start with
if it doesn't, if the straightforward ask doesn't get it done, and you can get it in a roundabout way where it's like you pay for 2 firsts in 2023 and then you shop those 2 firsts and see what you can do in terms of overall net gain by the beginning of the season, and maybe that's the way to go too.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean for how old is Metcalf? Is he 24?
He's 20. He's going on 24. He's 23 right now, I believe.
23 now, going on 24, maybe before the season starts. I mean, I think you're in a position where you could ask for DK and a little extra, because the talking point is Deontay just had a wide receiver one season and got a quarterback upgrade in Kenny Pickett, because anything's better than Ben Roethlisberger right now. Meanwhile, DK Metcalf is going to either catch passes from Drew Lock or Geno Smith, and the vibes are not great in Seattle right now based on that. You can absolutely ask, but like that being said, in a vacuum, as much as I love
who's
Deontay,
the next guy who we expect value to skyrocket for one
rather
season?
have DK.
Who's the next value? Like, can you get Marquise Brown plus, and then after he explodes this year over the first 6 games, you sell Marquise Brown for plus? Like, if you can sell Deontay for a lesser wide receiver you expect to perform at or better than Deontay Johnson this season,
and get the first round pick,
plus, and then you turn that into even more, then you're using your brain. Then you're being forward thinking with that. So I would try to even do something like that. If you can sell Deontay,
possibilities are endless. Yeah. But you should not settle for anything less than a wide receiver who you would rank ahead of Deontay Johnson, and you could get a little extra because the talking points are in his favor right now. You can also, the Claypool vibes are weird right now. Like the vibes are in Deontay's our favor right now as far as arguing getting max value for him. So yes, Johnny, I love Deontay. I will always love Deontay. I will always root and support for Deontay. But this is one of those times where we talk about peak value a lot on this channel. Deontay is a good example of how you can get maximum value for him, and you could come away with a really
DJ
nice
Moore
haul.
in a first, like, yo, shoot for the moon.
DJ Moore in a first.
Shoot for the moon.
Might be able to get even like squeeze an extra like 20-25 second out of that or whatever, just because DJ Moore's catching passes from Sam freaking Darnold. Like,
who looks real good in practice.
He's looking great in shorts playing against air.
It looks like we are at the end of the chat here. If anybody has any more questions, let us know. But my voice is getting a little raspy. We
are both recovering from COVID after all.
Yeah. But yeah, yo, thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for all your questions in the chat. Y'all made this fun. Alex, congrats on being a member for 3 months. Appreciate you throwing
That's
the
awesome.
super in there. And P Diddy, Papa Diddy Puff, thank you for becoming a member.
We got 12 people for a league.
Ooh, we got to start that up soon.
We got 12 people for a league.
We got to start that up now. We'll talk about that in the Discord. I'll have a little bit of a discussion with Nick over the next few days, because I'm probably going to see him after we're both cleared. Well, I'm definitely going to see you. But
that's the
we'll
plan.
talk about it a little bit there, and we'll come up with the game plan for y'all with regards to that. But again, thank you. We'll see y'all members, all 12 of y'all members tomorrow, members only stream, and then we'll be back for the general public on Thursday.
On Thursday, yeah. And if you want to keep the conversation going, the Discord is the second link in our description of this video and a lot of our most recent videos. You don't have to be a member to join the Discord. Trade conversations, general fantasy football topics, general questions you have at all, we're in there. The community's in there. Happy to talk through it, keep this conversation going, if that is of any interest to you. But yeah, thank you guys as always. Fun stream as always. We appreciate y'all. We appreciate your patience as we are both recovering from being sick.
Yeah.
We
won't be a dead channel soon. We'll be putting out stuff.
Yeah, we're a super dead channel.
Super dead.
According to Billy Bob or whatever his name was. But we promise to have recorded content back out to y'all, hopefully maybe as early as next week. Appreciate the patience. So thank you guys as always. You guys have a good night. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Yes, sir. Peace, y'all.